It's that time of the week. Yes, this week's Cult Movie Show, your weekly look at cult movies. Please welcome your hosts, Warren and Velvet.
Yes, welcome to another podcast of the Cult Movie Show, episode 80 with myself, Warren, and of course, the amazing Velvet. How are you today, Velvet?
Doing quite fantastic. I'm really excited about this episode. We picked some good ones to talk about tonight.
Oh, yes, it's going to be fun. So, I have to ask, as I always do at the start of every podcast now, I think, have you seen any good movies lately other than the ones we're about to start talking about?
I actually have not, which is sad. I'm sad to say. I have not been to the movies in what feels like forever. So I hope I will get back on track and start seeing stuff again. But yeah, for now, I'm starting to get behind on the times. Although, wait, I did actually see Glass.
Oh,
I
there we go.
did see M. Night Shyamalan's Glass. And I really liked it, but I know it's very divisive. What Shyamalan did with this movie is that he did not give us a superhero movie, which is the way the movie is set up. You think that's what you're getting. And in the beginning, he gives it to you because you want to see the antagonist and the protagonist battle it out. And he gives that to you within the first half hour of the movie. And I remember sitting in the theater like, wow, this is great. But then I'm like, wait, this is just the first half hour of the movie. Where's this going to go? How are they going to sustain this? And then it just totally shifts gear. You get your Shyamalan twists. And honestly, I really, really liked it. It caught me off guard. I found it really, I didn't suspect what was going to happen. But at the same time, a lot of people didn't like that because they were expecting a superhero movie. And this is like not a superhero movie. But also, this is M. Night Shyamalan, and he is not a superhero movie maker.
Right.
So keep that in mind if you go to see it. Also, it helps to brush up on the first two movies. If you see Unbreakable and then you see Split, which is what I did. I did a little movie marathon before I went to go see Glass in the theater. But no, I loved it. I really liked it.
Okay. Oh, excellent. I'm glad you saw something. I was thinking to myself then it was going to be the shortest segment in our podcast history.
Yeah, I'd just be like, did you see any good movies, Velvet?
No.
And that was the movie.
I actually caught up. I've just been actually too busy to see anything. But I did finally catch up with, as I always do, as I'm always 6 months behind. I finally caught up with First Man.
Oh my God!
About Neil Armstrong.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
And interesting movie, I will say. Not a bad movie, but not one I think I'll ever probably rewatch.
Oh my God, I forgot. I actually, back when it first came out, I did actually see that in the theater here in the United States. I was so bored. I could not finish that movie. I actually left after an hour. I was like, I can't take it anymore. I was like, even Ryan Gosling can't save this for me. I was just so bored because I didn't expect it to have such an independent flair to it, which is what it has, because there's like long lingering shots. There's just long sequences that have nothing to really do with the story. It's very atmospheric. It is beautifully shot, actually, because it really does catch like the essence of the time and era that's taking place. But oh man, I couldn't do it. I was just like, no, I need a more straightforward narrative about, the trials and the testing. And it was more just about, hey, let's watch kids play for 2 minutes. Oh, let's watch the husband and wife look at each other lovingly for 2 minutes. Oh, hey, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't. I'm like, I can't watch this movie. I wasn't mentally prepared for artistic. I thought I was getting a biopic and it was artistic. And I just couldn't do it that day.
No, I mean, I think a lot of people went to the cinema expecting Apollo 13, and it is not what they got.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
And
I didn't want Apollo 13 either, but I did think it was going to be more of a linear drama. But it was just so, oh my God, it was artistic. It was very independent.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's about Neil Armstrong, and Neil Armstrong was not exactly a funny, sort of, charismatic type of man. I mean, he was a very, very inward-looking, very, very almost depressive, person, and so and that's the problem with the movie. The movie's so depressing. It might be accurate from everything I understand. The Neil Armstrong's like that, but the problem is you're talking about one of the most important events in human history, and you come out of that movie so uninspired. That was my problem, sort of about it, because I think that the moon landing of Apollo 11 was bigger than Neil Armstrong, and the problem is the movie. It's Neil Armstrong's bigger than the moon landing, and I think that's the problem for me. That's what I had difficulty with it, but it's interesting. I'm glad I saw it, but I
was. Ugh.
They don't even.
I couldn't believe I walked out on it. I was like, I literally want to go home. I was like, I would literally be at home right now than be watching this movie. I was like, I'm just going to go home.
To me, it was like Titanic. You have to put up with 2 hours of bullshit until the ship starts to sink. And it's like, and then the film gets interesting. It's like, and this is the problem with like Apollo. They don't even launch Apollo 11 until the last 5 minutes of the movie. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad to know I wasn't the only one who was just like, no, not this movie.
No,
not this movie.
No, my understanding of Bombed, it didn't do very well. So, anyway.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
I was so disappointed. I was so excited to see Ryan Gosling. Love him to death. And I think he's a really fine actor, but some of the fucking movies he picks, I'm just like, whew. He's hot, but he likes to go for these really independent movies, which I can understand. As an actor, he wants to do something different. He doesn't always want to be cookie cutter. And obviously, he's at a place in his career where he can pick and choose. He doesn't have to just do blockbusters and, romances. So I get that. But sometimes, my God, because there's another movie like that he was in that I have not been able to watch. I just, for whatever reason, I can't get into it. It's, I think it's called God Only Knows, and
right.
it's like that. I'm just like 20 minutes in. It's still just like a lot of like neon lights and red lights and dark shadows and clubs, and I'm just like, okay, when is there going to be a fucking story? Like, if I want to see a light show, I'll prepare myself to watch a light show, but I need a story here. I can't just sit and look at the screen because I'm not doing drugs. I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
I need some kind of engagement here. So, yeah.
It's like trying to watch an Andy Warhol movie without alcohol. It's just not possible. Do you know? I mean, if there's lots of alcohol going around, I love an Andy Warhol movie, but you can't watch it without it. It's somehow an essential element, Yeah. Anyway. Well, we should probably move on because we do have some very interesting and actually some quite good movies here to actually talk about. Maybe, I don't know, good is how we would describe the first one, but should we just jump right on in, Velvet?
Absolutely. So I'll just say this before you go into it. This is our pick this week from the 50 Worst Movies Ever Made, the 2004 documentary. Take it away, Warren.
I shall. Now, we are looking at the 1953 American independent. This was actually an independent movie. Called,
super independent.
Talk about that a bit more soon. From 1953, as I said, in black and white, called Robot Monster. Now, we should actually quickly say that we did actually talk about this movie on a podcast, but way back. And in fact, it was before we were doing the show together, I think, Velvet.
Right.
I mean, it was so long ago that we, I almost 3 years ago or something.
Holy cow, yeah,
would it have been? So we basically sort of thought, no, we can relook at it. It's so far back. And the other thing too is that Velvet and I haven't talked about it.
Right.
So,
yeah, like we didn't know each other yet. We weren't hosting the show together yet. So yeah, we've never talked about it.
That's exactly right. So I think we hit it again with a clean slate, as they say. So, what is Robot Monster about? Just in case anyone who listens to this show has never seen it, because I reckon most of the people, I'm actually starting to think most of the people who listen to this show would have seen Robot Monster.
Right.
Do you think, Velvet, or not?
Yes, definitely.
I don't know.
And again, it's one of those pop culture by osmosis. Even if you've never seen the movie, you have seen the main antagonist in this movie in something.
Yes. So our story basically starts with a family who were on a picnic. And they meet up with some. What are they meant to? Are they meant to be archaeologists? I think archaeologists.
I think so. Yeah,
they're just scientists. I don't think they really go into it. And they have a nice little discussion with them and whatnot. And then the young son of the family who are out on this picnic, he gets himself in a little bit of trouble, and then a whole brand new story starts, and we find that he, along with his family and now the people that he met in the cave earlier on, are now suddenly all part of the family. So we're kind of thinking, all right, this is probably a dream of some sort. And anyway, it turns out that the entire human race has been exterminated, except for one family and a couple of scientists, because what is it? Is it the father? The father has invented some special vaccine that makes you immune from death rays.
A very forward-thinking father.
Yes. So we'll give you an injection, and superheated plasma will not hurt you. So once you've got this injection, I gather you can just go and jump into a volcano or something if you wanted to, or I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know.
So we are then introduced to our antagonist, yes, the alien, who has been responsible for doing all of this to take over the Earth. And it is the Roman. Yes, he is called the Roman, or XJ2, technically, I think is his actual title. So he is under orders from his superior. Now, his superior was called, what was it, the Great...
the Great Guidance.
The Great Guidance, who is another Roman. And he is told that he must now finish off the last of the humans. And so he will have to kill them physically, seeing that the death ray no longer works. So he goes about, killing them off one by one. But during this, he falls in love with the older sister of our sort of young main star, and steals her away because somehow, I don't know, this half ape, half diving helmet creature thinks that it's going to be able to mate with a Homo sapien. I have absolutely no idea, but anyway, that's where our movie goes. Slowly, they're all killed off one by one, and in the end, we find out that the Roman can't go through with this because he's in love with the older sister, and then the great, I've forgotten his name again, was the great...
the Great Guidance.
I was about to call him the Great Gatsby. The Great Guidance. the Great Guidance then replaces him and then releases all hell to destroy the last of what... But there's only three of them left, okay? But in order to do this... his plan is to somehow time travel dinosaurs from 60 million years ago into the present, so these dinosaurs can kill our three left humans that are left. But after all of this happens, of course, our young man wakes up, and yes, of course, it was all a dream. But,
or was it?
Or was it? Yes, or was it?
Oh my goodness gracious.
What did you think of Robot
I thought
Monster?
I was going to make it through this review without having a laugh attack, but I'm already cry laughing. Oh my god. It's just so ridiculous. It's it is one of those movies that you have to see at least once because it's just shockingly bad. It makes no sense, and it's so fucking cheap.
Yes.
And also, it's one of those movies that you absolutely have to see at least once, simply because, as I mentioned before, the pop culture by osmosis. If you've never seen this movie, you have seen the man in the gorilla suit wearing an old school diver's helmet. That is our Robot Monster. And it's nice to see these kind of movies and be like, oh, that's where that came from. But it's just so ridiculous. Obviously, these are not the most professional actors. As you can see, Roman kidnapping the daughter that he's fallen in love with. And he's carrying her off, and she's like kicking her arms and like pounding on his chest, trying to fight him. But you can see that she's laughing
Yes.
while she's doing it. I love seeing that kind of stuff in movies. So at least they're having fun while they're making these horrible movies. I love how they take a very whimsical machine. This type of whimsical machine still exists. It's a bubble making machine.
Yes!
I love how they have this bubble making machine in the movie that that's supposed to be the high tech technology of these aliens that have destroyed everybody on the earth but 6 people, and they have just this bubble machine making bubbles, and that's how he communicates with the Great Guidance, the other alien that's giving him his work orders to kill the remaining humans. And it's just like, and I love that if you watch the credits, they actually give the bubble machine a credit. They're like, thanks to so-and-so company for letting us use your bubble machine for this movie. Something like that.
Apparently what happened was that they just had these bits of electronic gizmos, whatever they could find or steal or whatever, and they're literally just stuck on wooden tables around the entrance of this cave, right? And this is meant to be all this high-tech communication equipment and whatnot. And a bubble machine, right, was simply because they got given the bubble machine for free. So then they give credit to the bubble machine I think it's the only, I can't think of a device that has ever been listed in the credits of a movie other than this movie.
I don't think so
the
either.
bubble machine actually gets a credit, which is, brilliant. Absolutely. Oh my God.
Okay, so Roman, that's our Robot Monster, the man in the gorilla suit with the diver's helmet. That gorilla suit is like insane. It is so big, so bushy. It's huge. I'm just like wondering how much of it is man and how much of it is costume. You know what I mean? Because it's so like large. It's really big. I'm like, what if this guy is just like a really skinny, tiny guy and he's just in this ginormous suit wearing it for the movie? It just the anatomy of the suit is bizarre to me because it's humongous. And then he's a pretty strong dude because he has to pick this lady up and run around with her in this movie. And he's wearing that uncomfortable diver's helmet, which, again, I'm pretty sure those aren't the lightest. Well, maybe it's a prop helmet, so maybe it was lighter than like your standard diver's helmet.
Yeah, I don't think it's an actual diver's helmet, to be honest.
Okay, that makes more sense. But what I love is in all the promotional photos for the movie, like in the movie, he's wearing the diver's helmet, and of course they have like the glass, the glass partition, so you can see outside of your helmet. And we can't see in as a viewer. It's always like blacked out. You can't really see in. But in all the promotional like photos and posters for the movie, there's a skull. There's a skull inside of the helmet. And so then you watch the movie and you're expecting to see this like skull on top of a gorilla suit, but you don't. You don't see that.
Well, it's the Roman and also the Great Guidance, because it's actually just exactly the same person,
right,
and it's the same suit, right? Okay, they just changed the voice a little bit. It was played by George Burroughs, and apparently the reason why he's Roman is because he owned the suit, right? and that's
It's
because
like, I have a suit. Can I be in the movie if I let you use the suit?
And
Can I wear the suit?
He would actually appear as a gorilla in several other movies wearing the
Really?
same gorilla suit. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. I didn't know that. That's really
and it's
funny.
all because you could hire him and he came along with the gorilla suits, right? So you didn't have...
That's fantastic.
Which is so that is just it is absolutely hilarious. But the dialogue is so. I mean, I have to admit, it is so bad. I mean, the discussion between what is it, the Great Guidance and Roman? It's like
The Great Gatsby.
yeah, the Great Gatsby. It's like you sound more like a human than a Roman, and it is it is just look. It is. I think you're right, Veld. It's one of those movies that it is terribly bad, but you will start laughing, literally after the first 5 minutes. It is so ludicrous, so silly, that it's thoroughly enjoyable, even though it is appallingly bad.
Yeah, let's get back to the dialogue. I do have actually a list of some of the quotes from this, and you're just like, what the hell? Okay, like here's one line from Roman. Bear with me, I'm going to try. It says, I cannot, yet I must. How do you calculate that? At what point on the graph do you must and cannot meet? Yet I must, but I cannot. What?
I know.
What? This is the dialogue we're dealing with, people. And then you got a little boy running around named Johnny, and he says to Roman, you look like you pooped out a pinwheel. I don't know. I mean, this movie is from the 1950s, so obviously some of the slang and I guess insults are so dated that they really don't make sense to me. I
know. It's like pooped out a pinwheel. Yeah, it's like
I don't even know what that means.
Well, I know what a pinwheel is. I don't quite.
Yeah, but I've never heard of pooping one out.
No. Yeah. I mean, I kind of get the idea of the dialogue of the Roman, of the robot men. I suppose the idea is it's meant to be a voiced idea of a computer, like breaking its programming, right?
Okay.
I mean, I think and they're trying to do it with dialogue, but it's just so badly done. I mean, I get the idea,
so bad,
right? I mean, but it is so bad, and just the idea that you're going to make the species of creatures which are meant to be robots, but you're going to put them in gorilla suits. I
don't get it either.
I think it was just simply that, we've got this guy, Don, and he's got a gorilla suit. Let's just go with that, It's good enough.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I was like, are they supposed to be robots? Why are they wearing gorilla suits?
No, I think it's just because he had a free gorilla suit. I think that's all it was. I don't think it was. I mean, if the guy had had a suit of armor, they would have put him in a suit of armor. It just was whatever he could bring on the day. I honestly think it's that simple, That's why they're dressed as gorillas, because there was a gorilla suit that he brought.
Yeah, I do love that. As we've said already. Not only is our main antagonist called Roman, but evidently it's a race of Roman. But every time they do say human in the movie, it is human.
Yes. Yes, you're right.
The way they said it. You're just like, what? I don't know. It's they made this movie in, I believe, 4 days.
Yes.
They made it for $1,000. They shot it all out in the open, so no actual sets, which is pretty fascinating. But they used a lot of stuff that they kind of found. So they're just like, yeah, this will work. We can just shoot over here and we can shoot over there. But they also, I believe, they had they used what they call that stuff, the matte paintings by Irving Block. and that's how we got the shot of New York in apocalyptic ruins.
Yes.
And then they had the shot of the headquarters of the Great Guidance. That was a rocket ship in a launching position, and that was also just like some artwork they actually took from another movie from 1950 called Rocket Ship XM. And I'm just like, well, that's actually pretty clever. So, I mean, they made use of stock footage, obviously, because we had dinosaurs from, 1 million BC, a 1940 film.
Yeah.
And they even have a very, like a very, very short shot of a stop motion Triceratops fighting. And that's from a movie called Lost Continent, also from 1951. So they used like quite a little bit of stock footage, a little bit of matte paintings, and then like lots of open air environment, just walking around and filming.
I think they just shot it in the park, didn't they? I mean,
yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah, pretty much. It was shot in Bronson Canyon. There you go.
Okay.
Bronson Canyon. And there's a ruined home that they found in a hilly residential area that they used. So, yeah, making good uses of your resources. Not bad. So they estimate this film was shot for about $1,000 and it made a whopping $1 million. So, but I think that's overall. I don't think that's like they made $1 million right away because, yeah. $1 million in 1953 would have been a lot of money. This movie was a commercial failure.
I
when
think
it was originally released.
I think it's about $16 million today or something like that. It's
wow.
in that. Right, it's in that. But there is a link here, actually, in this movie to something. It just shows you where people can start and when they can finish, and that's the film score to this.
Oh, right.
Now, it was composed by, what was his name? Bernstein. Okay, Elmer Bernstein. Now, of course, he would go on to do the music to the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
Right?
You gotta start
and the Ten Commandments. Right, so,
wow.
yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh, I need to correct myself right quick. I said they made the movie for $1,000. They actually made this for $16,000, which now sounds like way too much money to me. But yeah, $16,000.
No.
Wow.
No, I think you were right the first time. I think it's $16,000 today.
Oh,
it was $1,000. So it was $1,000 in 1953, but that would be worth about $16,000
today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
when we do those time currency conversions, it gets a little confusing sometimes.
Yeah.
I was going to say $16,000 in 1953 for this movie. That just sounds way too much. Okay.
Yes.
That was yikes. Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Like, what?
Okay. I'll tell you a story. The first time I actually saw this movie was actually in a cinema, believe it or not. And and no, I'm not that old. I saw it as a triple feature, which was Robot Monster with Plan 9 from Outer Space and The Blob.
Wow. Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
How
great.
fun.
What an evening. You think about it, yeah. And
did you have an interactive crowd? Did you guys was it a quiet crowd, or were people okay? How were people reacting to Robot Monster? This I got to hear about.
Oh, this is a very long time ago, but people would be doing the movements, the actions, and all this sort of stuff, and people would have little laser pointers, and they'd be pointing things out on the screen as it was showing, and all that sort of stuff. It wasn't one of those ones where people would actually come up on the stage and start doing the dialogue. It wasn't one of those. It was just the people in the audience, and also most of the people I think who were in the audience had been there 20 times already, or
wow.
And so they were. You would actually get big groups of people in the crowd who would start saying the dialogue all in unison with the actual actors on the screen. So that was great. It was at the old Valhalla Theatre in Melbourne, Australia, which doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. But it's that sort of movie, it's like we said originally, it's so bad, but that it is actually funny, and that's why you can go and actually see this thing at the cinema. I'm sure there's cinemas around the world who play this right now.
Oh, I believe it. Absolutely. I would go because there's definitely people we love. See, it's funny because like we go to a theater and we get so mad when we see a shitty movie, but at the same time, time erases all wounds. And it's just like give it a couple decades and then show a bad movie in the theater. And now it's cult and now it's funny and we have fun with it. So it's really interesting how I don't want to say we forgive it, but we have different expectations of certain films over time. Like, yeah, it's a film from 1950s and it's really bad and it's really cheap. It makes no sense. Let's go watch that and laugh. Let's go make fun of that.
Yeah. And that, that is, it's so much fun, and that's the thing I do like about this movie is that you can just sit back and just laugh and just go, oh my God. But when it's over, you don't feel like, God, that was a waste of time. You actually go, oh, wow, I actually experienced this classic called Robot Monster. Yeah, it was shit, but God, I'm glad I saw it.
Yeah, one of the things I think is funny about this movie is, okay, so the Great Guidance is like, what was their motivation for destroying all the humans on planet Earth? What was the motivation for that?
I can't even remember.
Do they ever say?
I don't even know. It's just
I don't think there actually is. I think they're just like, we're evil and that's our plan in the story. I think that's what it was. But okay, here's the funny thing. So 6 people managed to survive, as you said. That's what cracks me up is so the whole movie, they're just trying to kill the remaining 6 humans on Earth. Why is this so hard? Why is it so hard to do this? You just killed the whole planet. You can't kill 6 more people. So, yeah, it's just ridiculous. And then the whole thing about Robo-Man becoming more like a human and just like how, basically the Great Guidance like kills him with like a shot of like lightning or electricity or something because he's like, you're turning into a human. I'm like, how does that make sense? How would he would just start turning into a human? It's like, what? Because he's like starting to have feelings and starting to express free will. So I guess that would make him a human instead of a Roman. But yeah, it's just so ridiculous. And as you mentioned, that he's falling in love with the female, I believe, is it Alice? And I'm just like, as you mentioned, the anatomy and the genetics. Yeah, the anatomy and the genetics. I am concerned about how a physical pairing between the two would go because, yikes, sounds pretty incompatible to me.
It actually brings up a very interesting point because about a week ago, okay, the latest. I can't believe I'm going down this path, but. About a week ago, the latest, not the latest episode, but the second latest episode of The Orville dealt with the idea because one of the characters in that now, the Doctor, is in a relationship with a robot. Like they're actually dating. One's a robot, one's a human. Okay.
Okay.
Now, and I'm not talking like the data from Star Trek type android. I mean, in like an actual robot, looks like a robot, right? And
oh my God.
And they actually deal with this in the Orville about the idea that is it possible? Like, could this happen? Because what they find out, the path they go down in the Orville with this is that because this robot has been interacting with this person so much that if that person leaves their life, then their programming has changed to such an ability, to a degree, that they're no longer working at maximum efficiency because their whole systems now require that person to be around because their like subroutines are rewriting themselves all the time.
Oh, wow.
And so what they was kind of suggesting is that it is, although it's not love in the sense that you and I would view love, but it is in a weird way an artificial intelligence concept of love.
Oh, wow.
Now, this is all obviously hypothetical. The Orville is a black comedy. It's not meant to be taken seriously or anything like that. But it's really interesting. And what we're talking about in this movie is exactly kind of that. Because remember how we said earlier about the stupid dialogue with the Roman trying to break his programming, right? And then falls in love with...
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, I suddenly realized there's a lot in common with Robot Monster and episode 3 or 4 of series 2 of The Orville.
Oh, how funny.
So that is, I don't know, it's just weird how these things can somehow, I don't know, it even makes you wonder. Did Seth MacFarlane, was he influenced at all in The Orville in that episode by Robot Monster? I'm just asking.
I love it.
I'm just asking.
I think that's fantastic. I love it. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, so there you go.
I think that's fantastic. There's a lot of interesting trivia surrounding this film. Now, this, I don't know if it's true, and I think it's very sad if it is. But supposedly, okay, we got let's see, there's a book called The Golden Turkey Awards, and that's by the Medved brothers. And they claim that the director of this film, Phil Tucker, attempted suicide after this movie was released because the critical acclaim was so negative. They say he tried to shoot himself and he missed. I'm like, Jesus. So I don't know if that's true or not.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I hope it's not true. I'll have to research that more later. I'm actually curious because look how much joy this movie brings people now, and now it's a beloved cult favorite. Even though it's consistently cited as a bad movie, people love to watch it and talk about it, and they have a lot of fun with it. So, it's kind of like The Room. It's kind of like The Room. Tommy Wiseau now tries to claim, it was a comedy. I meant it to be bad. No, you didn't.
Yeah. No, but you are right. The Room, shocking, absolutely terrible film. Now become a cult classic. Of course, yes, he's changed his story now, like you said, Velvet. Yes, I always meant it to be this way. Tommy, no, you didn't. Okay, no. You're just you're a man who's clinically insane, made a really bad movie, and now it's like, but there are other movies that do the same thing. I mean, it's like, Showgirls is another one, where it was canned when it came out. Everyone hated it. Now it's a beloved movie, absolutely beloved. So, it's like, yes, that's the thing. Just because it's not popular when it came out, time can change that.
Yes, absolutely.
And you look at it now. It's it's probably screening on an actual cinema somewhere in the world this weekend. Like in an actual cinema, probably. That's the thing about it. Yeah. Just amazing. Yeah,
I actually remember how this movie entered my pop culture consciousness, and that was from a 1980s MTV music video from a band called The Cars. They have a song called You Might Think, and there's just a scene of Robot Monster in this movie. And I remember seeing this like gorilla wearing a diver's helmet. And actually, I thought it looked really scary. And they show a scene from the movie, and he's like, the scene where he's, I guess probably the most famous scene from the movie, where he's carrying the woman, kidnapping her, and she's like trying to escape, but she's really just laughing her ass off because they're all just having a good time making this movie. And then later in the movie, there's a scene where this woman is sitting in a movie theater, and it's in color, and they have this guy sit down next to her, and he's wearing a gorilla suit and a diver's helmet.
Oh, wow.
And he starts eating her popcorn, and I'm just like... So I remember, from then always seeing this weird, gorilla suit and diver's helmet monster. And I was just like, it never occurred to me that was an actual movie until as an adult, I was like, oh shit, that's a real movie.
Oh, God.
I thought it was just weird 80s video stuff.
Oh,
so
man.
You have to watch the video. It's again, the name of the band is The Cars, and this video was on heavy rotation on MTV. It was called You Might Think. You might think I'm crazy. You might think. Yeah, and it's really fun. Yeah, it's really fun to watch.
I remember the Cars. I remember that song. So you might think I'm crazy.
Yes,
I remember that song. Yeah.
Watch the video. It's like within the first minute you see the Robot Monster references, and it's very funny to see it in there now. And it's like, wow, and all these years later we're still talking about it and it's still popping up in pop culture.
There you go. That's amazing. Yeah. I remember that song in my head. Right, but I love that song. I've never seen the video clip. So that's okay. Wow.
Well, I will have to send you a link to it.
Cool. I can't wait. Excellent. Excellent. So I don't know. Have we got much else to really say? Is there a lot else to really say?
Not really. I think it's a great movie to really just get a bunch of friends together, order some pizza, have some drinks, and just sit there and talk and laugh. You don't really have to pay very closely attention to the dialogue.
Yeah.
You can just hang out. It can even just be like background movie. It's just the visuals. Just what a crazy combination. Like, hey, the gorilla suit doesn't have a head. Well, here we got this diver's helmet. Okay, let's use that. I mean, I don't know how they came up with this concept, but it is such an enduring image, and it's just fantastic.
Well, apparently, my understanding is they really did want like a robot-looking suit. Okay, I don't know if they were going to make it out of cardboard boxes with, aluminium spray paint or something. I don't know what, but apparently because this guy had the ape suit, they sort of said, all right, we'll use that. We just won't use the head. We'll just put a helmet on. And that's all, and then an icon was born, that's, just from basically them doing what they did with what they had.
Amazing.
And then it's kind of astounding that such an iconic monster was literally just spur of the moment, whatever we've got. This guy's got an ape suit there, but we can't use the head. All right, let's find this helmet, put the helmet on. And it was that simple, It's really kind of amazing, yeah. Because that's the other thing too, is I think if they had have actually built a robotic suit, the movie would just go down in history, I think, in some ways, as just a bad film.
Right.
I think it's that costume of the Roman
it is.
that actually makes it stand out. Is it so bizarre? Yeah. That's exactly right. I think that's exactly right. A robotic suit just would have made this a bad movie that no one would have ever have remembered. And
now this one we can't forget.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right, well, if we're going to rate Robot Monster,
man, it is a little, let's see, so on our Eric Roberts scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not so hot and 5 being perfect, amazing. Wow, this one's hard because to me it's honestly a bit boring. It is a bit boring, but at the same time, The Roman is such an enduring cult film icon that I can't rate it too low. And I had a fucking cry laugh attack just listening to you do your synopsis of the film. And so I mean, this movie brings me so much joy. This may seem a little high for what the movie is, but yeah, out of a possible 5 Eric Roberts, I'm actually going to go ahead and give it a 4 on the cult movie scale.
Wow.
Like, remember, as a cult movie, people, a cult movie.
Wow.
That's high for me.
I mean, look, I would actually say from enjoyment factor alone, I'd give it a 5. I'd give it a 5. But as an actual movie, I mean, it's hard to even get to 1. I mean, it is
exactly
right.
It's so iconic.
So because I'll try to put those two things together, and I'll give it 2.5 bubbles.
Wow, half a bubble.
Yeah. No, 2.5 bubbles. 2.5. Yes. Good. I don't know how you have half a bubble. I don't know. Just 2 big bubbles and 1 small bubble. Yes. Exactly.
But you can here. You can definitely do that here. All right. I think that's good. Yeah. It's just, it fits into that so bad it's good category.
Oh, just, no, yeah. If you were ever going to describe, because we do that all the time, don't we? We say, oh, this movie's so bad it's good. That this actually really does fall into that concept of so bad it's good. I've no doubt about that at all.
Yeah, because this is not just the type of movie where you go, oh my God, it's bad, and you forget about it. It's bad and you think about it, and then you start to chuckle, and then then you find somebody and you go, have you ever seen this movie? And then they're like, no, what are you talking about? And then you start describing it, and they're like, what? Really? And just like the reaction you get from people who've never seen this movie, and then you're like, okay, wait, you have to see this movie. So, I mean, it just, just that experience alone, that a movie can generate that kind of response from yourself and from other people. I mean, that's really valuable when it comes to cinema. And that's something every movie strives for, is that you want to elicit a reaction. Because so many movies, as you said, are just made and people go, oh, that sucks, and they forget about it. It elicits no reaction. And this one elicits all kinds.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, it's a bit like there are some movies that are really, really shocking, but I still suggest everyone needs to have seen them at least once, because it's just to understand other things that people will refer to in life. And if you haven't seen that movie, you won't often get the jokes that people often have. Zardos is a classic example, okay?
Wow. My God.
Yeah, I mean, watching Zardos once is all you ever need to do. You never need to revisit it. You never need to watch it again.
No.
But you do need to have seen it once, you know?
Yes.
But so there are movies like that. But Robot Monster is different. You can watch this over and over again and still laugh every single time, you know? And I do think it's like you said, Velvet, with a group of friends and a pizza and I don't know, whatever whether you're into martinis or whiskey or beer or a bit of wine, whatever your choice is, it's just brilliant. Pair this with a wine and cheese evening. I think that'd be
There
perfect.
you go, yeah.
There
definitely.
you go. There you go, yeah. All right. Well, it's time to move on from the Robot Monster, and we will be right back with did we do a mini movie last time? Yes, we did, but I think we've missed them a couple of times, but we do have one this time, so we'll be right back.
It's time to get excited, short film fans. It's mini movie review time.
It most definitely is. And what little gem have you discovered for us this week, Velvet?
All right, this is a short film from 2016. It is called Help! I'm Trapped in a Movie. It runs about just under 9 minutes, and it is by Tall Tales, I guess that's the name of their little production company, written and directed by Riley Maddensia. Sorry, I'm not sure how to say that last name. But yeah, this is a very funny, self-referential, very meta film, or mini movie, I should say, short film, in which a man wakes up to the sound of his alarm clock. And as he reaches over to turn off his alarm clock, his room is flooded with music. And he's alarmed. He's like, oh, that's weird. Turns off his alarm, room's flooded with music, and just as he's getting ready to think what's going on, the whole room fills with his voice. What, am I hearing my thoughts? Then all of a sudden, he is just in the kitchen, fully clothed, holding a cup of coffee. There's a man in front of him talking to him. Whoa, what's going on? And he's like, it's me, your best friend. We've known each other for years. He's like, wait, how'd I get here? How'd I get dressed? Did you dress me? Long story short, this man is trapped in a movie. So all these things, all of a sudden, just jump cuts, seeing a woman and he thinks she's beautiful, and all of a sudden she's moving in slow motion. And now they're trying to decide what kind of movie he's in. Is he in a horror? Is he in a drama? But then once he figures out what kind of movies he's in, he has to realize, oh my God, what rating is this film? Because if it's rated R, we can cuss. So they try to say curse words, and they can't do it. So they're like, uh-oh, we might be in a PG or a PG-13 movie. But then he's like, wait, if I'm in that kind of movie, can I have sex? Can he? You have to watch the mini movie to find out. So
Yes.
That's just some of the things that happen. What did you think of this mini movie, Warren?
Oh, look, it's quite enjoyable. It's quite funny. It's quite funny. Perfect length. I think the length was about perfect. The only thing I will say is that this concept or this story has been almost done to death.
Yes.
So it's not an original idea in any sort of shape or form. But in saying that, I still enjoyed it. I think they did it well. I think the dialogue between our main star and his friend is very well done. It's very funny. I love the jump cuts. I think they're They're very clever because that's something I haven't really seen done before in this genre of the idea of, we're trapped inside a film. Even though I've seen that done numerous times before, I've never seen it done with jump cuts. So I thought that was actually very clever. So I really did appreciate that and I liked it. And it works really well. Especially in the end, the jump cut works really, really well. With the very last scene, which we won't give away. No, I really liked it. I thought it was a good little film. As I said, by no means an original idea, but I think they still did it and pulled it off really well.
Absolutely. As you mentioned with the jump cuts, just to give a couple examples for people listening, I do love how they did this in that, for example, the cliches that you see in a lot of rom-coms. For example, he's asking a woman out on a date and he's like, hey, I'm wondering if you'd like to go out with me sometime. And she says, sure, pick me up at 8. And then she just walks away. We see this convention in movies all the time and we're used to it. We don't really think about it. But then once she does that, she says, yeah, sure, pick me up at 8 and walks away. He's like saying to his friends, like, wait, where do I pick her up? Where does she live? What's her address? Pick her up where? Like, am I meeting her here? Am I meeting her? Then all of a sudden they jump cut and they're sitting in the restaurant at the date. And he's like, oh, well, okay, we're already here. It's like these things that happen in movies that we take for granted. And in real life, you obviously can't just, say, pick me up at 8 and walk away, because they're like, wait, where do you live? Where am I picking you up from? Are we walking? Are we taking a, taxi? How are we getting there? Like, all the shit that, just like in movies, we don't see people using the bathroom and taking a shower unless, that plays a part in the film for some reason. But all the mundane stuff we all do every day, we don't see people, eating and shitting and pissing.
Yes.
And they take care of that in all these jump cuts. It's really funny that they acknowledge every jump cut. Just like all of a sudden, oh, wow, where are we at? Where are we at? Like, oh, now we're here. Okay. Like, just really funny, really well done. And I think that is actually what makes this movie are the jump cuts.
Well, yes, it allows them, I think, to, like, if they've got, 8-9 minutes, but the thing is, they're actually able to fit in much more than 8 or 9 minutes worth of movie because of the fact that it jump cuts. So yes, if you weren't to have those in there, to achieve everything they want to achieve, you'd actually, you wouldn't get a full movie, but you'd get like half an hour, sort of thing. So, with doing it, it was a very clever idea and works really, really well.
And as you said, the concept of the self-referential, caught in a film type story, I agree. It has been done to death, and I love this genre. I love this genre, and I love the stalker genre. So
yes.
And they're always the same. It's always the same stuff over and over again, and I love it. If you like these kind of, hey, I'm trapped in a movie type movies, a great one that I think a lot of people haven't seen, and it was actually a horror comedy. It was called Final Girls.
Oh, yes.
Yes, which is a great one where you have a group of teenagers that are actually caught in a horror film, and it's kind of like Jason Voorhees Friday the 13th style, where it's an axe wielding madman out in at a campsite, basically not killing all the teenagers, and they do all the oh, here we got to draw them out, here we set booby traps, here you're the girl who always has sex, here flash them so he'll come over here and get caught in the trap, like.
I know that is a brilliant movie. I really recommend everyone go and see that. And,
yeah, it's really great, really worth checking out.
Oh, and with a very clever ending, which I won't give away. The ending's very good in that movie. And great cast too. It was really that movie was really well thought out. Actually, I mean we're trapped in a movie, and so it's like we can't. How do we get out of it? Well, we've got, which they say in this short film, well, we've got to run it out to the end. That's how we get out of the movie. The beautiful thing about that movie you're talking about, though, Velvet, is that there's a twist at the end because, I think I can say this. Should I say it or not?
Yeah, go for it. Okay. I think it's funny.
There's a thing called a sequel. So that is a really, really good film. And the way they know that they've got to work with the script, but at the same time, they're trying to changed the script. It's a great film. I highly recommend everyone actually looks that up and watches it. What's it called again, Velvet?
It's called Final Girls.
Final Girls. Yeah, really good film. So that's a good one.
So our mini movie is once again called, if you like the kind of self-referential film and you're trapped in the film, this one's called Help, I'm Trapped in a Movie. And it's from 2016 against the production company is called Tall Tales. And you can actually go ahead and subscribe to their YouTube channel, Tall Tales, on YouTube. And just a little fun fact, this little mini movie was actually crowdfunded by over 120 backers on Kickstarter. So I think that's brilliant. Pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, that's very cool.
All right.
Excellent.
All
no,
right.
Yeah, I just wanted to say when I said, I said a couple of times that the idea is not original. That doesn't mean that this film's not good, because it is good.
It's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's very funny. It's very funny, and it's done extremely well. So it gets a thumbs up from me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I love this. I thought this was really fun.
Yeah, excellent. All right, well, we will just take a quick musical break, and then we'll be back with our second film review.
Woohoo!
Children, yet another chance. Special delivery for one final dance. Break up your ears, put on your dancing shoes. You've waited long enough, so no time to lose. By now you know that only true love never dies. Just like mine, take two hearts. Ronnie Samba, love is back. Ronnie Samba, Samba. Well, friends, it's high time to remember his name. Walk on the wild side would not be the same. Everything feels right, every note falls into place. You can't help it but smile, hearing what heaven sent, and now you know what heaven sent. That only true love never dies. Just like mine, take two hearts. Ronnie Samba, Samba, Samba. Love is back. Ronnie Samba, Samba. It's your lucky day, prepare to be amazed. Slowly kiss, hide the street.
And we are back, and that was, of course, Matt Bianco with Ronnie's Samba. And, I don't know, Matt Bianco is one of those British bands, you know, sort of a bit like Swing Out Sister. They make you want to just dress in Versace and drink martinis. I don't know. There's something, I don't know. There's something that says you always feel like when you listen to them that you're just never well enough dressed. I don't know. It's, anyway. So we are about to talk about our second film. Now, this one is actually quite modern, so we won't give the ending of this one away. I think that's probably fair, don't you think, Velvet?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we are talking about the 2018 movie Cam. So that's C-A-M, Cam, as in video cam sort of thing, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is a really interesting movie. It's I wouldn't call it a horror, a psychological thriller. Is that maybe? I don't know. It's a really interesting film, and it's one reason why we wanted to speak about it. Now it's readily available on Netflix, I believe. I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It is a Netflix film.
Well, there you go. So yes, probably a very good chance then you will find it on Netflix. Seeing it is a Netflix film. So it's a story of a young woman who is a what do you call it? Cam star? Is that what they call it?
We call it just a webcam model, or even
model.
cam model.
Right.
Yeah, webcam model or cam model. Or
Okay.
if you're hateful, you could say cam whore. I don't like it when people say that.
Oh no, that's
so,
just horrible. No,
I know, right?
Oh,
But people do say that. But
Yeah.
webcam model or cam model. So
Yep.
or webcam girl. There you go. Or cam
Webcam.
girl.
Oh, there we go.
Cam girl.
Cam
Cam
girl.
girl.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
There's a lot of little cute nicknames. We'll go cam girl.
So I think everyone knows what a cam girl is. Are there cam
Yes.
guys? Just out of interest.
Oh yes,
There are. Okay. I thought there'd have to be. I mean, there'd have to
I
be.
have to
But
talk about that off camera, or I'll start cry laughing.
oh right. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. So anyway, our story is about a young woman who is a cam girl, and she has her own channel. I'm so out of my depth here. Channel. I think like YouTube, but it's I don't know. So it's her own. Yeah, I don't know, whatever, that she puts out her videos that you watch, and you can, it's pay to view sort of thing, isn't it? So you pay to watch.
So she does live performances, live webcam performances on a platform, and, you know, just like we have, you know, Skype, for example, not sponsored, to call people and talk. There are webcam platforms that you sign up through. You have to prove that you're of legal age for the country that they operate in, which usually is universally 18 years old. And then they set up the payment processor, and you're mostly in control of whatever you stream live. Most of them do have rules and regulations. Obviously, no minors, no animals, no blood, piss, or shit.
Right.
You know, stuff that's pretty universally accepted across the globe. So, but this movie does break some of those rules, but we'll talk about that.
Yes, it does.
We'll talk about that.
And so anyway, so she does this, and she's making a very healthy, comfortable living from doing it. But she's not really so much of a sexual model, is she? She sort of is more of a, like, she does almost little performance art pieces, and
she does do sex shows, which is interesting. They show her in a very classy way. She's very big on performance.
Yes.
So she's not just sitting there waiting for people to buy shows to do sexy stuff. She's very engaging. She does like she has a date night with one where she's like just sitting there eating a steak, talking to all the men watching her on webcam. And once they tip her enough money, that's when she'll make the room private, and only the people who have participated will be able to watch her get naked and do sexual stuff.
Right.
Or actually, I think on this one, they don't even go private. I think it's just once they say, hey, once you've paid me X amount, and I hit that
then
goal,
I will do it.
Then I'll do the sex performance. And whether you paid or not, if you're here, you get to watch,
Right.
which is, I think, how that platform works.
Right. Okay. So anyway, so she wants to become like in the top. What is it? The top
50.
Top 50. Okay, of this service, And anyway, and she finally gets there. She has enough people like paying her money and following her and all the rest of it that she actually gets there. Now, once she's actually got to that point, something very, very strange happens. She loses control of her account. Okay, she can't access it. She can't film anything. She can't, she can't access the money. Everything. She's just totally locked out of it. Now you would sort of think, okay, well that's just a criminal that's hacked her. How is that going to be an exciting film? What she suddenly realizes is that she's still performing. How is she still performing when she's here and she's seen herself actually perform? She at first thinks that maybe someone is using old tapes and are playing them, but she suddenly realizes they're not. I've never done this before. This is all brand new. Not only that, she's able to interact with herself. She can actually ask herself to do something and she will actually do it. So she can't work out what on earth, is going on. How is this possible? All she can think of is that maybe there's, what do they call it? A double ganger. Like a spitting image person who has now sort of stolen this account. But then she starts to learn that she's not the only person this seems to have happened to. It seems to have happened to other people, and she finds out that there's even one person who is still performing. In fact, she's meant to be the top performer, I think, it's meant to be. And she realizes that this girl is actually dead. So how is she doing this if she's actually dead? Well, our movie then, of course, goes through all of this. She tries to track it down. She tries to find out what on earth's going on. She will finally realize what's going on in our big reveal at the end. And I don't want to give away what that is, but I'll say it's a fascinating concept. It's a fascinating idea of identity theft. But at the same time, I think it's maybe a little bit too futuristic right now. I don't know whether what they do is actually physically possible right now. I don't know, but we can talk about that a little bit more in detail. But that's what this movie is about. It's about the fact that her whole identity has been stolen, but not her bank account numbers and everything. Her actual body has been stolen. How is this actually possible? So it's a really, really interesting film. I wish I could describe it better than that, but if I do, I'm going to have to give the ending away, and I don't want to do that because I am really highly suggesting that people go and watch this on Netflix. So what were your thoughts, Velvet? I know that was one of the worst roundups I've done, but...
No, I don't think that was so bad. No, it's a hard movie to explain. I used to work as a webcam model, so when this came on, I was kind of like, oh, this sounds kind of fun because I love the stalker genre. So honestly, I thought it was going to be one of those movies where she's a webcam model and now she has a stalker and this guy figures out where she lives. And I've already made the whole movie in my head. So I think I already know what I'm getting into. And then I watched this movie and it's nothing like that. It's like this almost a supernatural, super horror thriller. And it's really honestly tastefully done for the type of subject matter that it is, which I thought was really impressive. That, we're focusing on what is essentially a sex worker, a legalized form of sex work in most places. And, this takes place in the United States, obviously. And I love that she's not handled with a lot of social stigma, although we do see scenes of that happening, like it's a secret from her mother. Her brother knows about it, but he's keeping her secret, and eventually the brother's friends find out, and they're like, your sister's a porn star, and it's like it causes a lot of problems, and she's embarrassed and she's humiliated, even though she's not doing anything wrong. She's an adult, she's paying her bills, she's earning money legally, but unfortunately there's all this stigma surrounding what she does. But I love that they showed the cam model, and this does exist. There are cam models that do performances like this, where she's very interactive, She has an engaging personality. She's always coming up with activities and new scenery and new outfits and things to keep her audience engaged, so that they literally are just tipping her to hang out with her. And she sets a daily monetary goal. It's interesting. I think it's smart too. I appreciate that they did this in the movie, that they make it clear that she's making a lot of money, but they never say how much she is making. So I really like that they did that. So, and that's could be true in any business. Honestly, this is a business where she's an independent contractor. She's her own boss with her own schedule. So she's decided to go all in, and she's making as much money as she wants. So they're showing basically what is a rich cam model. So it's interesting that she's doing this because she's obviously a natural performer. She's a born performer. I also love that this movie shows that she's a typical cam model in that she doesn't seem to have a lot of friends. She doesn't outside of what she does. And she has no boyfriend or any kind of love interest. So this movie is not about, she doesn't know how to communicate with men and she's having trouble with her boyfriend, or she's being forced by somebody, or she's in financial dire straits. She does this job because she likes it and she's good at it, which I think is a really sex worker positive way to go about this movie. And I really appreciate that they told the story in this manner. So I'll take a breath and let you get back into the movie.
Right. Yes, look, I really enjoyed it. I entered this movie the same way you did, Velvet. I thought it was going to go down a very different direction. I thought it was purely going to be about identity theft and stalking via the web. That's what I thought it was going to go. Because we've seen a number of those movies, this idea of, stalking via the web. And they're all very good, but I thought it was just going to be another one of them. And when you very quickly realize it's not that at all. It's almost as an element of science fiction to this. Would that be fair?
I absolutely agree. There's for a moment I thought it was supernatural, but now I think it's more on the air of science fiction, like you said, or maybe possibly in the future science fact.
Well, yes. I would agree with that. I did actually work on that idea, especially when we find out that, the top performer is dead, but still performing. Yeah, was this somehow supernatural? It definitely ran through my mind. But then I really wasn't too sure what it was. I did, because obviously you're meant to think that it's like a lookalike. That's what you're meant to think. But, but you do start to realize as this movie goes on, it's not a lookalike. Something else is actually going on. And that's where, and I'll just say this, computerization, and I'll won't mention anything else. All right.
Yeah, I'm trying not to spoil.
Yeah, so I'm not going to say any more about it. But I'll just say that, and we'll move on from that. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of these webcam companies, whenever you sign up for their platforms, they do basically say in small print, "Hey, everything that you stream through our platform, we do record and we keep." And sometimes we will go ahead and show those videos and we will put a price tag on them and we make money off of the product that you created. So at first she thinks that's pretty much what's happened. She's logged off. She goes to log into her account to start work. She can't log in and she sees that it shows she is online and that she is performing. So at first she thinks, oh, maybe they put up one of my old videos, which would still be strange. And she actually even calls customer support, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
And you see the, which, they have there so that when you are having a problem with your account and stuff, and she's calling to verify that, hey, this is my account. And they're like, yeah, it says you're live. You're doing a show right now. And she's like, what? No, I'm not. I'm watching myself do the show. I thought you guys uploaded a video of mine or something. They're like, no, we don't do that. And they're like, at least if they did, they wouldn't do it on the same, platform that she uses. They would have a different website or something, different area of the website. They wouldn't do it on her stream, because what if she wants to log in and make money? So then it's weird because at first she's still convinced it's got to be like a video stream, and she uses a dummy account. She just creates a little dummy account and just, calls herself like Mr. Teapot or Mr. Teacup, and enters the chat room portion of this performer that looks just like her, and the performer interacts with her. That's when she realizes, oh shit, this is a live person who looks just like me who is using my account. And you're like, wait, So honestly, like at this point in the movie, I'm thinking, oh wow, this is weird. So first I'm already thinking, I'm like, well, maybe it's a parallel universe that's colliding. Like somehow it's like they both exist, but it's parallel universes somehow, and one of them's accidentally crossed over. But then I was like, well, wait, maybe it's a doppelganger, like, you know, like a just, you know, that straight, like a doppelganger, like a twin, you know, or some weird. But then you realize, no, there's something else going on. There is a little bit of a stalker element in this movie, which I really like. I was like, oh God, where's that going to go? Because in the very beginning of the movie, there's she breaks what I said she broke a rule. Like they do this in the movie because it's a movie, but in real life, if you're working as a webcam model, you are not allowed to have a knife and slit your throat on camera.
Right.
They will instant, like once they, you know, depending on the website, there's either going to be somebody monitoring your stream, or they will find out eventually they will close your account because they're like, what are you going to do next? You know, shoot a dog? Like
right.
You can't do violent shit that causes bloodshed. You can't do that kind of stuff. So even though she's using like prosthetics and, you know, fake stuff, so you're not allowed to have guns and knives on your stream when you're performing live. So, but for the most part, she seemed to follow most of the rules. You know, she's allowed to talk and be sexually explicit. But I thought it was interesting that they showed that she had like a regular customer that he's probably paid enough money over time that she has given him her phone number. Now, she may have a separate phone. It may be her personal phone. I wasn't really sure in the movie. It kind of looked like it was her personal phone, which I thought was kind of weird. But nowadays you can block people, so I don't know. Anyways. And he's actually like helping her plan out these shows, and he's like being her hype man in the room on the show, like, yeah, do it, getting all the other people excited so they tip more and she makes more money. And then after the show's done, you know, they call or text each other, and he's like, wow, that show was great. And she's like, yeah, thank you for your help. And then like you start seeing that whole behind the scenes of like developing relationships with certain customers to earn more money, to keep them coming back to the show. And by relationship, all I mean is she's just giving them a little extra attention to make them feel special. Although she does go on a date with one of her webcam customers, and that doesn't turn out so well.
It doesn't, but it's not her fault.
No.
I mean, because it all has to do with this hacking,
yes,
where this guy thinks that he's been like cheated, I suppose is the want of a better word.
Yeah.
The really interesting character in this, though, wanted to ask you about is the friend that she has, because I'm still not 100% convinced, or I just don't know from this story. Is he someone who kind of has worked out what's going on, or is he kind of like a talent scout for these hackers? Like, is he actually hunting down these women, making contact with them, knowing that these are going to be the elite of the elite cam models, and then he finds them, so then this organization or whatever it is that does this stuff will then go, right, well, so just a talent scout, like a baseball scout, you know? Or is he actually involved deeper himself? Or is he just a person who has worked out what's going on? I don't know, because he seems to be in contact with these other girls, and I wonder whether he is like some sort of scout. What did you think?
Yeah, I wasn't 100% sure what was going on with him either. So when we first see him, we think he's just a regular customer of hers. But then we find out that he has moved to the town she lives in, and she sees him in the supermarket, and she's super freaked out because it's kind of like, oh shit, did this guy just fucking move to be near me? This is a problem. He's that type of customer, like you get him in every type of sex work, whether it's porn stars, prostitutes, dancers, cam models. You know, forgive me if I'm lumping everybody all together, but my point is that, like, okay, yeah, he's your customer and he's really into you, but you're not going to be the only one he's into. Like, he has a whole stable of girls that he spends money on, that he talks to, that he stays in communication with. But for the most part, I get the impression that he has worked out what is going on. and he's moving to the one that he can get the closest access to. And I think for a second, I think he really does think for half a second that he can save her. But at the same time, he's really just a horny customer.
So you don't think that he's involved in any way?
I don't think he really is.
Right,
I don't think he really is. I don't think he really is. I think he's figured out what's going on. And because he knows what's going on, he seeks out Alice because he knows he can try to help her and be there for her. But then she takes that power away from him really quick when she realizes he knows what's going on.
Because that's the interesting thing about it, is that even once he knows that it's not Alice that he's watching, he's still watching.
Yes.
That's the real, like, when Alice actually meets up with him later in the movie, and then he disappears, like they're in his, like, motel room or whatever I think it's meant to be.
Yeah.
And then we realise that he's disappeared to the bathroom to watch her show, even though he knows it's not her because she's physically sitting in the living room.
Right.
It's a really weird thing, which
It's because the fantasy is better than the reality for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The fantasy is better than the reality for him because now, like, fantasy Alice just makes him jack off.
Yes.
Whereas real Alice is like, oh my God, this weird shit's happening. I'm having problems. I need help. And he's like, I'd rather go jack off.
Yes. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Yes, he's in love with the fantasy. So even when the real person is in his motel room, that's not good enough for him. He's still no, it's all right. Don't worry. Who cares? Who cares? I'll make it even better. He was fucking jerking off.
Which like I said, again, the subject matter of this movie, it's really, the way they deal with it's actually really pretty classy. I was honestly really surprised that they were able to really touch on everything. Like, hey, yeah, she does get naked for money, but we're not going to focus on that. But yeah, that's a part of her job. Hey, yes, and when people do pay her to get naked, yes, they do masturbate, but we're not going to focus on that.
Yeah.
But they do touch on everything. Like, hey, we do touch on this stuff. Yes, there is masturbation. Yes, there's money exchanged. Yes, this is adult entertainment. This is sex work, but that is not the main focus of this movie. Although it's, it's there, but it's, like I said, this could have really been like NC-17 over the top weird. And I love how they made it like, gave it a solid R, restricted rating and kept everything like above board. I really love the way they did it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm fascinated, to hear sort of your views on the accuracy of forgetting about the theft, the body theft, if you like, but the accuracy of the industry. I mean that. Yeah.
I was surprised how accurate a lot of this stuff was, because a lot of times, like any movies about adult films, I'm just like, adult entertainment. Any movies about adult entertainment, whether it's stripping or porn or, just any of the stuff, it is so fucking unrealistic. I'm like, they act like, oh, I'm a stripper and I make $2,000 a night every night, 365 days a year. And I'm like, if that was true, we would all be strippers.
Yes.
We would all be strippers if that was true. I mean, throw all your morals to the wind. If you're going to be that financially stable from being a stripper, yes. But, so this movie does show that she was a specific kind of webcam model. I mean, like, she was putting a lot of herself into this. She was a natural born performer. This is the type of woman that would be highly successful at that job, at that, independent contracting work. What I did like is they actually showed a webcam house, which I thought was interesting. I was surprised they actually touched on that, which is basically probably maybe somebody owns the house and they rent out the rooms to all the girls there, but it's just maybe these girls either live there or they like rent a room so that they don't have to work from home, or they can't work from home. But this stuff does exist. Like I thought that was kind of just made up. So they did that so they could have the girls interact and talk with each other. So that is actually real. I didn't actually. Oh wow. Yeah, I mean, most people do work from their own home and work by themselves, but there are setups where people will be like, hey, I have a house. I'm willing to rent out room for webcam models. And then you can also interact with each other. Like, you just, have to run it by the platform saying, hey, can you please add this person to my account? So anytime they want to come on camera with you, it's approved and you guys can do performances together, because one girl makes money, but two girls, guys just go crazy.
Okay.
So that's why they even have a scene where she's like, okay, I'm going to drive like a 3-hour drive out to this cam house to do a show with another performer where she's riding like one of those fucking Sibians, the fucking vibrating horse saddle.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like she's going to fucking pass out from orgasm, which is kind of funny. But, so I mean, like, I was surprised. I was like, wow, they even got a webcam model house going on in this movie. Yes, this does exist. Kind of wish I'd done that when I was younger. It kind of actually felt like it would have been fun.
Well, I suppose there's all these people around. It's a very social sort of environment, isn't it?
And it's
I suppose.
any kind of sex work can be very isolating. So I love that they were showing how these girls did have like social network and knew each other, knew other people that were doing the same type of work they did. But also it showed her isolation, that like she had like no close friends outside of work. Her family doesn't know what she does. And this is a very typical webcam model persona, that she's pretty quiet and sedated in her everyday life. But once she's working and performing, that's when she comes alive. That's why she fights to get her account back and get rid of this imposter.
Yes. Yeah, or is it an imposter? Oh.
Or is it?
Or is it? Yeah. Is it something else? Yes.
And we don't want to spoil it because the movie's from
spoil
2018, so we want to give you guys a chance to watch it.
Yes. Look, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not going to say what happens in the ending, but the ending is very interesting. And I'll tell you what, she does something in it. I think I can give this away. Personal injury. That's not giving anything away. I'll just say that.
All right.
Oh, my God, did I feel that? That was
that was pretty wild.
It is done to a level where, and it's full on. It is really full on.
Wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. Did you like the ending?
Okay, you mean the very end. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe because it's I don't know. I'm kind of split in regards to how she discovers what's really happening and to expose it. That I did like, although even though it's very violent. But the bit after that, I don't know. Would you just go back, or would you walk away? I don't know. I don't know. What did you think?
I do like the ending, but I can't say exactly why I like it because I don't want to spoil it, but I will definitely tell you off air. I did like it because at first I thought the ending was like a cop-out. I was like, oh, that's cheap, that's easy, that's kind of doesn't really explain anything. But when I was doing my research, I'll just say I found out there's a deleted scene,
right,
which makes the movie make more sense. And I'm like, oh. And I kind of really don't know why that was deleted, because actually that was kind of really valuable to explaining the movie. But I guess they wanted to keep it more mysterious. Maybe that's why. But knowing what I know now, I'm like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. So, but I'll talk to you about that.
Right. Okay. I'll be fascinated to hear that. I'll be fascinated to hear that. Because otherwise, I was a bit like you originally. I sort of thought, not the ending of the exposure, but the ending of the film, I thought was a bit cheap. A bit, no, not cheap, simplistic.
Right.
And so that would be, that'd be really interesting. I'd love to hear what you think about that. The special effects are very good, in regards to the violent bits in the movie. They're very believable.
Yes.
As I said, the final violent act, I shivered actually.
It's pretty intense. I
don't really have anything bad to say about it. I mean, it's not a perfect film, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I really was impressed by the way it did not go down the path I thought it was going to.
I was really impressed by the story and just the way they handled the subject matter of, the theme of this movie is it's straight up called Cam. So they're letting you know, hey, this is a movie about sex work, but the movie's not about sex work, which is really fascinating. It's like it's what she does, but it's not what the movie's about, which I thought was just so well done. Just one really quick thing about accuracy, as you mentioned, how accurate was the film? All these girls were going to be getting naked. All these girls were going to be doing, sex acts on themselves of some sort. So there's that one girl that's not very likable, and she's like, "Oh, I do non-nude, and I'll go nude if you guys, make so and so fall out of the top 10 or top 50." And I'm like, no, there's no way you're doing non-nude, because your room would be empty and nobody would be tipping you to see you with your clothes on. So just a heads up in case anybody watches this movie and is like, oh, I don't have to get nude. Yes, you do. Nobody's paying to see you with your clothes on.
I found that a bit surprising, because it's a little bit like, well, hang on, you can go and watch, what do they call them, ASMR video on YouTube, if that's what you want to. You can, what's this new thing that's really popular with a lot of young women is the bikini try-on channels. Right, okay, these people are getting 200,000 subscribers, and all they do is they go into partnership with bikini companies and try on bikinis. That's all they do. So what I was just thinking is that if you can do that on YouTube, you're not going to be paying somebody.
Right.
That just doesn't. Right. It doesn't ring true to me. So I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on that. Yeah, that's really fascinating. I agree with you. I couldn't see how someone would be one of the top cam girls ever, but was non-nude. That just doesn't seem legit to me. Yeah. No,
not in adult entertainment. People are there to see people get naked and down and dirty.
Yes.
So I was surprised. I was like, oh, this movie was so accurate up until that stupid character who's like, I don't get nude. And I'm like, yes, get out of here.
Yes, I mean, they could have been just more realistic, and they could have sort of said, she's still getting nude and doing everything else, but I will do something extreme if you unfollow her.
That makes more sense.
That would make.
But I guess they wanted to keep it from getting porntastic, instead of her being like, "You see this? You see that big baseball bat over there?"
Oh my God! Okay, yeah, okay.
So I think that's why they did that. Which I was like, I can forgive that film for that. I was like, because they, like they said, they wanted to keep it. They wanted it to know, okay, this is what these girls do, but this is not what this movie's about. So I think it's good that they didn't go into some crazy shit like that and ruin the movie. Because then you get so distracted. You're like, wait, are they going to show that? Wait, how far is this movie going to go? And then people get pissed off because they're like, damn, I thought they were going to show it. Like, people are sitting there with a box of tissues and a tub of Vaseline getting ready to go. And they're like, oh man, didn't even show it. Like, no, but
I was actually going to say, in regards to the sets of nudity that's in the movie, I thought the balance was actually pretty good.
Because, there's very little nudity. There's not that much at all.
But I think if there had have been none, then I think it would have just felt a bit too unrealistic.
Right.
So I'm glad that they did put some nudity in it. But I'm also glad that they didn't go any further than they did, because then it would have started to become a jerk-off movie itself, right?
Exactly,
and that's not really what you'd want, because this is okay. Because I think that's the thing. This is a really good little film. It's a good little thriller, and you wouldn't want to destroy it by doing that,
Right.
Yeah.
Her mom was a little bit weird because, it's really common for a lot of webcam models not to tell their family members they're doing sex work. It's understandable because, it's easier just to say I'm doing something with computers. I work from home.
Yeah.
It's understandable. But when her mother does find out that she's working as a webcam model, what does her fucking mother do? Oh, I went ahead and watched some of your shows.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit weird.
And her daughter's like, what? And her mom's like, you're really good. And you're like, oh, no, this is a horror movie.
But that also means, right, her mother had to buy an account.
Yes.
Right? That's I mean, that is really kind. I mean, look, Yeah, that was just. I mean, I know we live in a world of, what is it, Pornhub
Well,
and all this sort of
honestly-
stuff. But this is different because you would have actually have had to pay to do it.
Okay, so you can set up an account just to watch the show. So maybe she just hung out and watched her daughter flirt and interact with the men. And once she got to the point where she's like, okay, you guys tipped me enough, I'm going to get naked and play with myself now. Maybe that's when her mom was like, okay, I'm going to exit now. I'll come back later. Because I think that's what she did. I don't think she actually watched her, like, masturbate and stuff. Because that would have been way too much.
Well, it's also, it's a very interesting thing, isn't it? Because it's like, when you are friends with people who have been in industries like this, there is one thing I can guarantee you of: you never watch them.
No.
Like
no.
it's because it
No.
really does feel. I can say. Well, look, okay, we're both friendly with Alana Evans, okay? So,
Right.
Now, I can honestly admit I had seen a little bit of Alana Evans before I got to know her. Now that
Right.
we're friendly, I can't watch her. Do you know what I mean? It's like...
really, the universal thing is you don't want to watch your friends have sex.
Yeah,
It's just that weird. There's that platonic thing that once somebody's your friend, you don't want to have sex with them.
Well,
You
yes,
don't want to watch them have sex. You don't want to have sex with them.
That's right.
Because they're your friend. They're not a romantic love interest. They're not a sex partner. They're a friend. So
It's not... because-
that's the way I feel about
Yeah,
it. so.
just I think the whole idea of all of this is that it's fantasy, and once you break a boundary of fantasy, then it's a little bit like see, I always wonder how social media impacts all of this in the modern industry, because if you went back to, let's say, the 1980s and so forth, the only way that, let's say, an adult performer would ever meet a fan would maybe be at a club or at a what are the, what is it, those
A convention.
the convention. That's what I was trying to say, right? But now you can interact. You can say hello, and they can say hello back.
Right.
It's like, how does that affect it all? Has it changed it?
Yeah, I'm sure it's changed in a lot of ways. What made, fans have a lot more access to their, to the stars that they like. They also lost a lot of respect for stars, I think, because they became so entitled. Whereas before it was just like they would treat you with so much respect, but now they're like, oh, I can see you online for free and talk to you, and I don't have to pay just to talk to you.
Yes.
Like, yeah, so, in the beginning it was like, with webcam modeling, it was very like, oh, you're my favorite porn star, and they would have to pay to talk to you. Then they started the thing they call free chat, which is exactly what it sounds like. Like, you no longer have to pay just to chat, but if you want to see me do something sexy, you got to pay. And then, of course, it became a dime a dozen, and, it's just like, it's like breathing air. It's too easily accessible now. It's not special anymore. So it gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper.
Yeah, I do. Well, yeah, but I think you're 100% right, because there is that idea that I suppose an adult, but it's not even an adult performer. It's anyone in the performing arts, like even someone who's on stage or someone who's in movies or TV. The idea, like in the past, they were so distant, but now they're not. Now they're somehow much closer to their fan base than they've ever been before. And just how different that actually is. So
it's crazy.
we are off topic, but it's but it's interesting. But it's an interesting conversation, though. I think, But anyway, back to the movie.
I love the overall aesthetic of this film too. It has a very surreal feel to it. It's everything's like, there's lots of like red and blue lights and dark shadows and just really vibrant colors. It's like, there's one point in the movie where it seems surreal. Like at one point in the movie, you think she's actually going to wake up from a dream and find this whole movie was a dream sequence or a nightmare.
Yeah.
And you find out it's not. It's still going. She's awake and it's still going, and all the crazy lights and everything is just the world she's living in. I love how it shows there's that daytime where, just regular daytime, regular life, out and about the grocery store. And then you have, work time when it's, all the like atmospheric lighting and music and camera lights and, just webcam on your computer, streaming your performance and chat rooms. And it's just, I love how there's the two worlds that she's constantly balancing as a cam model. It's just, I really like the way this movie was made.
I mean, I loved her room that she had. Like,
she was full on professional. She was like, okay, I'm setting up lights. I have all the outfits. I have different theme nights every night. Like that's the kind of girl that would actually make tons of money as a webcam model. Being really super engaging, being different, always coming up with ways to entertain her audience, like an actual performer. For her, the sex part is so minimal because she's all about personality.
Yes, yeah. It's but it's fascinating. Look, I really enjoyed this. I don't know. I don't have a lot more to say, but I just really actually enjoyed it. I recommend people see it. And don't get worried. I mean, if you're not into, erotic cinema or anything like that, that's fine. Don't worry about that. This movie is not like that. It's just that's the industry she works in. It's not about that. It's about this idea of, it's sort of a combination of stalking and identity threat, all identity fraud, all mixed into one. But it does make you wonder. Do you reckon that this sort of thing, what happens to her, is possible?
Yeah, actually I do, which is the crazy thing. And it could happen a lot sooner than you think. If you're not familiar with deep fakes, they already have this, CGI computer generated technology where you can literally take anybody's face and put on anybody's body and it looks seamless. They're starting to see this a lot with porn stars. Like, people are taking actual porn star films and they're putting celebrities' faces on the actual films, digital films, and you will find them online. Like, if one of the really popular ones right now that has come up is the singer Selena Gomez has her face on a ton of porn stars, and
really?
It looks like and it literally looks like it's her having sex. And I mean, but they've done this for politicians. A popular one, they call these deep fakes. They did it with our former president here in the United States, Barack Obama, where they put his face on another person's body, and he's saying, "I like to smoke weed," and it literally looks like it's our former president.
Wow!
Saying he likes to smoke marijuana.
Yeah.
So, I could definitely. I mean, this is honestly not what happens in this movie, so I don't want people to think we spoiled the movie for them. But my point is that our identities could be stolen in ways we could not even imagine in the near future.
Because that's the thing. Yeah, it's identity theft, but not necessarily. Yeah, I mean, that idea of the future, not your bank account being stolen, but your actual you yourself body being stolen.
Your face, your body. It's crazy.
That is a fascinating thing, and it does actually. It brings up so many questions that, as technology keeps advancing, what laws are we going to bring in, in the future?
Eventually they're going to have to.
Yeah.
Eventually they're going to have to. Yeah.
Because
right now it's still the Wild West on the internet. You can pretty much put anything and do anything, and there's little repercussions.
It's like every time a government says they're going to do this on the internet, they're going to do that, nothing ever happens. It just stays the same and gets wilder, I mean, I can remember back, I think it was 2001 or something like that, the Australian government said it was going to ban pornography on the internet. 2001 came and went. Nothing ever happened. It was just it's one of those wild political promises that could never be kept. It's made by politicians that don't even understand the subject matter they're talking about. But it just, that's the thing. Where will it go? Is it just gets wilder and wilder and wilder?
Yeah. A couple years ago, they said they were going to do the same thing. I believe in England too, where they were all the webcam models were like, "Oh my God, it's going to hurt my webcam performances." And of course, it never happened.
Never happened.
Like, okay, never happened.
There's no way they really can. I mean, the only way to do it is to do what countries like China do, where they just they can block in. But the thing by doing that blocking is they block everything. So that whole idea is that if let's say pornography is coming out of the United States, they just block everything that's American, right? So the problem is that to block one thing, you block 200 billion other things, So
Right.
that seems to be about the only way it's ever successful, or you just do what Russia do and just make your own platform so your people go where the government want to, because that's where everybody is. I mean, that's the reason why Facebook isn't really used in Russia. It's not that you can't use it. It's just that the government decided we'll make a competitor. Right?
Amazing.
So if you speak Russian, you're not going to use Facebook. You're going to use the Russian version, So
you're going to use Drugi book. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
Sorry.
whatever it's called, I don't know.
Sorry.
Although there do seem to be some exceptions. Instagram seems to be pretty global.
Yeah.
Wherever
it is just pictures, so,
Yeah. Although it's starting
with a wall of text.
well, it's starting to become more than that. I actually think that Instagram's starting to replace Twitter.
Yeah.
Because you can do so much more with Instagram than you can do with Twitter.
Yeah. And that's been the thing for years. Twitter's been on the decline. Well, also, people don't read anymore.
Yes.
Of course, I'm joking, but I'm just saying, Twitter was like, hey, now you can add pictures. So, I mean, they did do that, because I remember they used to be only text, which was fun. That was a cool time when people actually had to read what you wrote. But, I
don't know.
They want a picture now. They want pictures now.
The reason why, the other thing too, probably why I prefer Instagram over Twitter, is that Instagram, people are actually producing something. Here's a photograph of my new car. Here's a photograph of dinner I cooked. Where Twitter is just gobbledygook of people saying nothing, endlessly. Now, I understand it's not a platform in things like politics and all that sort of stuff, but I'm bored with all of that now, and so I'd much rather see what somebody made for dinner than hear their thoughts on a politician,
I feel you on that one.
Yeah. And, oh, God, we're digressing again just after we said that we were... All right.
Oh, my God. Okay. So, Cam, 2018, a Netflix movie. So I highly recommend you guys check it out. I do like it a lot, but I'm only going to give it a 3.5 because although the idea is really original, I think it requires a lot of thought to really know what's going on. And I feel like they really deleted an important scene because, like I said, I just did some research and found out there's a deleted scene that really kind of explains what's going on. And they deleted that scene. So it's kind of like, so you watch this movie kind of like, what the fuck happened? That was cool, but what happened? So because of that, I'm just going to give this a 3.5.
I'm going to give it exactly the same, I think. I think there's some loose ends in this as well. But I'll be fascinated actually off air to hear what, maybe some of those will be answered for me. So it's good. I really did enjoy it, I have to admit, but it's not perfect. It's not a movie that's probably going to stand the test of time or anything, although it might be a movie we look back on in 10 years' time and go, yeah, predicted it.
Oh God, I hope not, but it might. Yeah, it really might. It really might.
So that would be very interesting. No, but I agree. Yeah, it's about a 3.5. I would give it, most definitely. Yeah,
definitely. So check it out, people.
Yes, but definitely recommend people go and watch it because I think you will enjoy it. All right, well, we'll just take another quick break and we'll be back with our final review. I got that joke. I got that joke. And we are back, and that was, of course, New Order with True Faith. I know that's an old favourite of yours, isn't it, Velvet? I think True Faith.
I love
New
that
Order.
song.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that song.
And it's
Absolutely.
I love the way too it had the sign language in it. I always thought that
Yeah,
was.
I was. Oh man, this is where I am in my life. When I was like learning sign language, and I was like, oh, I can watch that video now because they have sign language in it. And I go to watch it, and I'm like, oh, that's British sign language. Of course, never mind. I know American sign language. Totally different languages. Never mind.
Yeah, I was fascinated. I remember when you told me that, probably a couple of years ago now, that you were saying that there's different sign languages in different countries. I thought it was universal. I had no idea. Yeah,
a lot of people think that's a popular misconception. It's just like any country you go to has a different spoken language, and sign language is the same. And it's interesting because American Sign Language actually is derived from French Sign Language. So if you get an American Sign Language person and you get a deaf sign person and they sign to each other, they'll be able to understand about 40% of each other. Okay. Because American Sign Language derives from French. When they brought sign language over to America, it was a French signer who brought sign language to America. And over the years, it's changed, but there's still strong French elements in it. So it's pretty fascinating.
Wow. Yeah. So if two people are signing to each other, if one is American and one is, let's say, British, can they actually not talk to each other, or?
Probably not.
Wow, that's really freaking amazing.
They might end up, at that point, they might end up doing gestures. Like they won't be using sign language at that point. It'll just be kind of like, hey, you see that thing over there? I'm pointing at this thing. That thing? Okay, that thing? Yeah, that. Like, they're not going to be able to clearly communicate with each other.
That's just absolutely fascinating. It's a bit like like there's sometimes late at night if people have been drinking too much. There's the art that sometimes I've heard it come up before. It's like, do animals in different countries have like the equivalency of accents? Right, so you know how like obviously an American has a different accent to an Australian, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now, well, of course, animals don't have language, right? They don't actually talk, so of course, then you just sort of say, "What a stupid thing." But the idea is, it's not meant to be an accent, as in an accent on language. It's as in, is there the sounds and so forth slightly different to, say, a Labrador in South Africa and a Labrador in Canada. And apparently they're starting to believe that there are some differences, that when you isolate the same species, they do start to develop some differences because of the isolation from each other. They develop over time. So yeah, I saw a documentary on that just recently. It was quite interesting.
That is fascinating.
Yeah,
I love it. And there's also, among sign languages, there's also different accents and different regional differences.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
Even regional
like, for
differences?
example, yeah. So, for example, when I sign, since I'm not deaf and sign language is not my first language, I have a hearing accent.
Right.
When I sign. So that's funny that, deaf people can tell that most of the time that I'm hearing when I sign, because of the way I move and, do certain gestures. They're just like, oh, she has a hearing accent.
So unless you were extraordinarily talented, generally speaking, you couldn't fool the deaf person into making them think you were deaf.
Right. Also we have like a lot of like micro tells. Like if we hear a loud noise, we turn our head to look at it, whereas a deaf person wouldn't.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you're signing with a person, you look away, they'll be like, oh, why did you look away? They'll ask you, why did you look away?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
They don't hear the distractions. So they're like, why did you look away? What's going on? Like,
yes. There's even things like flickers in our eyes and stuff caused by noise and stuff like that. Like, it's still a response.
Exactly.
Which they wouldn't, a deaf person wouldn't have, but if you're signing, you're still going to have. So yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, that's fascinating. Not that any of this has anything whatsoever to do with the movie we're about to talk about. But we are going to talk about a character that we've spoken about quite a lot on this show, but we've never actually reviewed anything that has anything to do with them. And that is because we are talking about the when was it again?
1996.
1996 movie Doctor Who, or as it's most commonly known now, because we have to differentiate between all the different versions and everything, Doctor Who, the movie. Now, it is actually, it was a Canadian-American-British co-production, but it was still classified under the BBC, and it is still marketed under the BBC. And unlike two Doctor Who movies that were produced in the 1960s starring Peter Cushing, which have nothing to do with the franchise at all, this is a legit movie. It is part of the actual story. It's part of the lore, and everything that's happening in Doctor Who right now still links back to this movie. So it's all part of it. So just to let everyone know, it is an official movie. It's not, something that was just done or anything like that. Okay, so I don't think we need to explain who the Doctor from Doctor Who is. I think everybody knows that. He's an alien from Gallifrey.
He has two hearts.
He has two. I think he can regenerate. I think everyone knows who the character is. I don't think we need to go down that path to evolve it. I think should we take that as read to a degree?
We'll leave it at that for now, or else we will be here all.
Yeah. So we'll just leave it at that. So, all right. This movie basically came about when the BBC ended Doctor Who with the what was it, the Seventh Doctor? Seventh Doctor, was it? was it the Eighth
Oh,
Doctor?
I was
Doctor.
hoping you would know better than I would.
Oh God! When I was a kid, I used to know all of this stuff. Anyway, but it finished with Sylvester McCoy, who was the last.
Yes.
So he was the seventh Doctor
at the time.
Yeah,
He was the seventh Doctor.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so this movie basically tells us a bit of the story of the Eighth Doctor before we get the Ninth Doctor, who played by, was it Christopher Eccleston, but who of course now is not actually the Ninth Doctor. It actually turns out he's the 10th Doctor. Oh, don't worry, it's
The Ninth Doctor is the War Doctor, but hang in
That's
there,
right.
people.
But actually, the Ninth Doctor is not the Ninth Doctor; it's the 10th Doctor. Oh, fuck me, drunk. It's yes. I think David Tennant always summed it up so well. It's just timey-wimey stuff. So anyway, this is about the Eighth Doctor, but it doesn't start with the Eighth Doctor. So our story is basically that the Master now. Maybe not everyone knows who the Master is. The Master is basically the Doctor's arch nemesis, if you like. Yes, I know there's the Daleks, there's the Cybermen, but they're races of beings, all right? The Master is another Time Lord. He is from Gallifrey, okay? And
He's the evil version of Doctor
evil
Who.
version of the... Well, no, it's not Doctor Who, it's the Doctor. Everyone always makes
the
that
Doctor,
mistake.
excuse me, the Doctor.
The show is called Doctor Who. He is called
Right.
the Doctor.
The Doctor.
And do not worry,
Doctor.
everyone makes that
Who.
mistake. I've
Right.
even heard people who have played the Doctor refer to themselves as Doctor Who. So don't worry, that happens all. So anyway, so what happens is the Master is caught by the Daleks who execute him. And somehow or other, this all sounds a bit weird, but anyway, his body is then, what's left of the body, the ashes type kind of thing, is meant to be the Daleks handed over to the Time Lords on Gallifrey to do whatever their burial thing is. And so the Doctor is sent to collect the remains. Now, at this stage, which is very, very interesting, the Doctor is still being played by Sylvester McCoy. It's the seventh Doctor from the TV series. And anyway, so he picks up the remains. He's flying off to Gallifrey, and then suddenly, yes, the Master turns into some gooey thing and escapes and takes over the TARDIS. So he's still alive. Anyway, so the TARDIS then diverts, lands in on Earth, actually in the year 1999, just before the millennium. Now, and it's actually meant to be the eve of the millennium, isn't it? It's like New Year's Eve that it actually lands. So anyway, as the Doctor steps out, yes, he's gunned down by baddie gang members,
Christ.
and anyway, and he's killed. Well, of course, we all know that bullets can't stop a Gallifreyan because they just regenerate. But of course, nobody knows that, and they take him off to a hospital where they do surgery on him, and he dies. Well, okay, but we all know he's going to come back, and he does. He regenerates and comes back as the Doctor, now, of course, played by Paul
Roger
McGann.
Daltrey. Oh,
Roger, yeah, I know. I know so many people say that. I know.
I don't know why I thought that was Roger Daltrey, and I was like, that is not Roger Daltrey.
Oh, they did look very similar.
Know.
Yeah, very similar looking guys, actually. But no, even if you see the two of them later in life, they still look very similar. So no, I do get that. They do look the same. So anyway, so the Master.
But it was actually
yes. So it was actually Paul McGann. Now
there we go.
So Paul McGann comes back as the Doctor, but he can't really remember who he is. He doesn't know he's the Doctor. Because he's
he has
regeneration.
amnesia.
Yeah, and he's got amnesia. Anyway, his memory will slowly start to come back over time. He meets up with a beautiful young Doctor who becomes sort of the companion for this adventure. The Master will then take over a person's body. In fact, it's a paramedic's body. And the Master becomes, yes, he's played by Eric Roberts, the man himself. So Eric Roberts actually plays the Master. Now, so the Master wants to basically steal the Doctor's TARDIS, do all these terrible, nasty things, and the Doctor has to stop him. typical master story in Doctor Who. So then it really comes down to, can the Doctor stop the Master, or will the Master be successful, kill the Doctor, take over his TARDIS, and then he can go off again to cause havoc throughout the universe. It's a good little film, I think. But it is, in a sense, really just an hour and a half. It's just an episode, basically, which is, done as a movie. In fact, this was actually originally put out as a telemovie, and it was done actually as a pilot to a degree, because there was a belief at the time, or there were negotiations at the time, that if the BBC didn't want to keep producing Doctor Who, Fox in the United States, there was actually an idea with Paramount and Fox to actually take it over in the United States. And this was actually done as a bit of a test sort of bed to see whether the Doctor could move to the United States. So what did you think of Doctor Who, the movie?
I like this movie, but it was a mess. I like this movie, but it was a mess. First off, I absolutely love the way that Paul McGann, who I lovingly like to think of as Roger Daltrey from The Who. I don't know why the fuck I thought that. I really love the way he played the Doctor in this movie. I thought he really was just like, if this had gone on to be an actual series starring him as the 8th Doctor, I think he would have been a wonderful fit. But he still has a nice legacy. He gets to be part of the Doctor's lore as the 8th Doctor in this film. I do like the way he performed. Eric Roberts, I love Eric Roberts. We love Eric Roberts. He's, we've based our movie scale on the Eric Roberts scale. He has over 300 movie credits. I think over 400 now. This guy's always working. And I'm always happy to see him. I think he's great in it. He's very over the top and sinister, but I don't know. I don't know what the fuck was going on with the goo. It makes no sense. I don't know what was happening. And I don't say this often, and I'm honestly surprised I'm saying this about this movie, but this is, I feel like, a movie you actually need to see more than once to understand everything that's going on, whether you're versed in Doctor Who lore or not. Because I only saw this once, and I'm like, wait, I don't understand why they did this. I missed that. What was happening? Why did they? I didn't catch it all the first time. I have to watch it again.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot in this story too, that there are things that come up in this story that would never ever be addressed again, like in Doctor Who lore. In this movie, it's claimed that the Doctor isn't fully Gallifreyan. He's actually part human. The idea that he basically had a Gallifreyan father and a human mother.
Right.
But biologically, he's still, it's a bit like, I suppose, Spock in Star Trek. It's meant to be like that. So Spock's still Vulcan, even though he has a human mother.
Right.
But that would never ever be addressed again.
I wanted to ask you about that, but you already brought it up. Yeah, I was curious. I was like, okay, I'm not as well versed in the Doctor Who lore as you are, so I'll refer to you a lot. But I am a fan. I love Doctor Who, although I am way behind on seasons now. And I was going to ask, I'm like, is he part human? So no, I guess he's not. So even though this movie is considered canon to the Doctor Who lore, that is one aspect of it where they're like, well, except for that part.
Well, it could be argued, because it's never ever raised again. Like, even today, it's never been raised again. So it is conceivable that it is part of lore. It's just that it's never been spoken about again. So for instance, he tells the sidekick in this one that he's half human. Well, maybe that is true. Maybe the Doctor really is half human, and he just has never told anybody. That she's the only person he ever tells. I do find it a bit, considering there's all the stuff about, the Doctor's real name and, all that timey-wimey stuff about, was he actually married? Well, we know he was married. He had a family, right? But I mean, but it's like, I don't know. I really don't know. I think most people sort of see it as something that's brought up in this movie, and they kind of forget it ever happened. right?
Right.
I think
right.
that's
And
more
also
the way
he brings it up is weird because it just comes out of nowhere. All of a sudden he goes, "I'm going to tell you a big secret." You're like, and then he tells it, and you're like, "Why?"
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Look, I mean, it plays to this particular story maybe a little bit. I mean, the other thing too is that we actually see the heart of the TARDIS opened up in this movie, which we won't see again until the rebirth of Doctor Who, where they do open up the heart of the TARDIS. So that was interesting, in seeing that. And with that, the idea that, yes, he has a human eye and a Gallifreyan eye. That was really weird. So the idea is he can, because the Master is fully Gallifreyan, because he's got this.
See, I missed that part. I heard them saying, "Oh, she has human eyes." Okay, I missed that part. I didn't realize that the Doctor had one of each. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no,
I think
yes, the idea is kind of, it's not there's physically one of each. I think the idea is that when the Master is stealing his soul, for want of a better term, he's able to fight the Master via his human side because the Master is 100% Gallifreyan, where the Doctor is half Gallifreyan, half human. And this is kind of the way that he's able to trick, if you like, the Master. It's because the Master's not aware. Right, so I kind of get the way that the story flows with this, but I don't know.
Like I said, I like it, but it's a mess because I'm just like, okay. First off, the very beginning of the movie, I really have a problem with how cheap the writing is at the very beginning. That the Master has died, like he used up all of his 13 lives. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
All 13 lives is Doctor Who lore is that every time they die, they can regenerate and come back to life. So he's used up all those. So he's dead. End of story. Dead.
Yeah.
Got killed by Daleks. If you're not familiar with Daleks, they're basically a nemesis of the show, and they have extermination rays, and if they kill you, you're dead. And he's been killed for the 13th time. He's dead. He comes back as goo. Makes no fucking sense. I don't understand. And it's not just goo. It's like sentient goo. And it's slithering through fucking keyholes, and then it turns into a snake. And it slides down Eric Roberts' throat while he's sleeping. He has his mouth open. He's snoring. I'm like, wait, what? What is this movie?
Well, that's not okay.
That's so cheap. I don't like it.
It was very cheaply. Look, it was very cheaply done. But there is something I can tell you about Doctor Who lore. Okay. And that is that a Gallifreyan. Yes, they only have 13. Let's call them 13 lives. It's 13 regenerations. Okay.
There you go. 13 regenerations.
Yeah, that they have. But there are some exceptions to this rule, and that is that in the 13th regeneration, when they're dying, because when you die on your 13th, you really do die, but a Gallifreyan, if they're really evil, like the Master, do have the ability to take over someone else's body. And they can artificially keep themselves alive by stealing bodies. And even if we go back to the Fourth Doctor, we actually see that, not the Fourth Doctor, the Fifth Doctor, Peter Davison, we see that because the Master actually takes over the body of Nessa's father halfway through when Nessa is travelling with the Doctor. We do actually see that. So the Master has done that before. He has taken over bodies. But the idea was always meant to be that he was on his 13th life. That was why he was taking over the bodies. What doesn't make sense about this movie is he's killed by the Daleks. So it's end of story.
Yeah, he's a pile of dust, right? I mean, there's nothing to even regenerate. He should be like a pile of like ash or dust or something. Yeah, right?
So that doesn't make any sense. Although then it's but this is the problem with I wouldn't necessarily say it's the problem, but this is the thing about Doctor Who that can make it difficult for people that haven't seen every episode ever made, and which I have, so I'm kind of lucky in that. All right, I've been watching it since I was a young child. So
amazing.
Is that the Master has been brought back. Oh my God. So they keep writing in different, even in David Tennant, when the Master dies, they manage to bring him back. And then somehow or other, the Master is on like his 20th life or something. It's, But then, of course, we see, remember Matt Smith, when he becomes Peter Capaldi, he's given extra lives by the Time Lords. They actually somehow or other magically give him extra life. So the Doctor now is pretty much immortal. So yeah, it gets so confusing. We'll just wreck it down to timey-wimey and yeah. But to change the subject a little bit on this, do you want to know two actors who actually turned down the role to play the Doctor in this?
Ooh, absolutely.
Christopher Eccleston and Peter Capaldi.
Who
would go on to play the Doctor in Doctor Who.
Or the Doctor.
Yeah. So
Doctor.
that is absolutely hilarious. But some of the people who were actually considered, now these are really, really interesting. Robert Lindsay. Yeah, I can kind of see that. But some of them really, really wild and out there. Michael Crawford.
Wow.
I don't see that at all. Tim Curry.
Wow. I could see him being the Master. I don't see him being the Doctor.
Yeah, I agree. The Master, but not the Doctor. Now, this is okay. Now it starts to get really weird. Okay, Eric Idle.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
I no. Okay, Billy Connolly.
Again, I could see him being on Doctor Who. I don't see him being the Doctor.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I could see him being a character on the show, but I don't see him being the Doctor.
And Jonathan Pryce. Okay.
No.
Here's
a couple for you. Here are some people that were considered and actually turned it down. Here's some American actors. First off, it's understandable that American actors should not be playing the Doctor unless they have a very, 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 very good English accent, because the Doctor has always spoken with an English accent, hasn't he, or has he not? I could be wrong on that. Actually, no, I'm wrong on that.
Well, yes, and it was maybe Peter Capaldi kind of blows that out of the water. He's got a Scottish accent.
Okay. All right.
And
okay.
Anyway, yeah.
Here's some of the American actors that were offered the role of the Doctor in this made-for-TV movie, a possible reboot of the series, and they all turned it down. We had Tom Hanks.
Seriously? Wow.
Tom Hanks.
Wow. Okay.
And he turned it down simply because he said he doesn't think an American should play the Doctor.
Yeah.
We got Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford?
Harrison Ford. Indiana Jones.
That would
he turned it down.
Oh, thank God.
He turned it down because he did not want to do television.
Thank God.
Now this one, I don't know. Jim Carrey.
No, he would have taken it in a direction that just would have gone friggin' nuts.
He turned it down because he had never seen a single episode of Doctor Who, and he did not want to piss off the fan base.
Well, actually, respect to him for that, I have to admit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was a smart move, I think. Yeah, there's a humongous list of actors that have been considered and turned down this role, and I mean, pretty much anybody who's who has been offered the role at one point or another, it seems. I'm not going to go through the whole list because this list is way too huge. But evidently when it came to the Master, they were just like, they really did not know who to get. So originally they wanted, oops, I lost my person. I will find them. Originally, they wanted this one star to play the Master, and damn it, I hate when I lose my list and I can't find it now.
Well, while you're looking for it, I'll tell you one other Englishman who was actually asked, and that was Michael Palin.
Oh, wow.
And the more I think about it, because remember, he would have been 20 or more years younger, obviously, than he is now. So in 1996, yeah, maybe actually. Maybe I could have seen that actually, to be truthful. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But Robert Lindsay was the other one. I could have seen him in the role as well. I think he would have actually been quite a good Doctor, actually, Robert Lindsay.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, here's what I can't believe I forgot this. Okay, but now it's like, oh, I found it. Okay. So originally, who they wanted to play the Master in this movie, Universal did not want to pay the cost to hire Christopher Lloyd. They said he was too expensive.
Wow.
So they got Eric Roberts, and then he turned out to cost more than Lloyd. So that's the way it goes.
Wow, Christopher Lloyd. Wow.
Which I could see, because remember, he was Judge Doom in fucking in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So I love him as a villain. I love him as a lovable protagonist. Also love him in I Am Not a Serial Killer, which that had a great twist with Christopher Lloyd in it.
Look, as much as I really like Eric Roberts, you all know I love Eric Roberts, but I almost hate to say this, I would have preferred Christopher Lloyd.
And I think he would have fit in better with the aesthetic of the film somehow.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I agree. There's something just so he like Eric Roberts always comes across as like more a member of the mafia rather than a...
Yeah, he's too cool for school.
Yeah, he's too cool,
He's got a very smooth, sophisticated persona to him.
Although the very latest, incarnation of the Master, played by... Oh, I've forgotten the name of the actor now. He was very cool for school. I mean, he was very cool and very hip. In fact, he was almost more hip than the Doctor.
I can't wait to see.
Oh no! This is going years back.
Okay.
I've forgotten his name. It was when they brought the Master back, when David Tennant was the Doctor. I've just forgotten the name of the actor.
It was. I can see his face. I can't remember his name.
and yeah, he was very, very cool. So yeah, that's really interesting. The other cool thing about this movie, though, I think, was that it gave Sylvester McCoy a sign off, because the thing is that when Doctor Who ended in Britain, it didn't end. They just stopped making episodes. Right. So it was I thought what was good about it was because they didn't have to do this. They could have just gone straight into the new Doctor,
Right.
But I thought it was very, very nice for, what do everyone call themselves these days? Whovians is actually now the official term, Whovian.
Yeah.
For Whovians to actually see Sylvester McCoy do a regeneration.
Yeah,
right. So I
think that's really great.
That was very good. But is the other one too, of course, is that in this film is, of course, that Peter McGann doesn't get a regeneration into Christopher Eccleston, because, of course, we have this movie, and then 10, 15 years later, Doctor Who restarts again on BBC television. So, but we do. There is a mini movie available, produced by the BBC, which stars Paul McGann. And we get to see Paul McGann regenerate into William Hurt.
Oh, cool. I am going to have to watch that.
Yeah, so it's only a little 10-minute mini movie, but it was made intentionally so Whovians could get the regeneration. They could actually get to see. Actually get to see Paul McGann hand over the ropes to John
Hurt.
Sorry, John Hurt. I said William Hurt. Sorry, to John Hurt. Yeah. So that was I thought really, really nice. So you can check that out too. That's
the Night of the Doctor. If you guys want to check that out.
Yeah, that's
and that's where you can see the regeneration from Paul MGann to John Hurt. So we got the 8th Doctor passing the baton to the 9th Doctor, the War Doctor.
Although this is where it gets really interesting too, because he's not, even though he's technically the 9th Doctor, he's actually not. He's the War Doctor. So
War Doctor.
So Christopher Eccleston is still actually the 9th Doctor.
I love his record.
Yeah. Oh, he was.
Yeah.
He was. It was such a shame, actually, that he only did.
He only did
season.
one season, and
know.
oh my god, I didn't get into Doctor Who until he was like rebooted the show, and they had him, and I did not know the whole Doctor Who lore at all. I knew the show had been around forever, and I knew this was like a new version, but I did not know anything about regeneration. And when he died and regenerated, I was bawling like a baby.
Oh, I know.
And then
yeah.
I was furious. I was so mad. I was like, why isn't he doing the show anymore? What happened? Why did they kill him? Yeah, I literally was angry. I went online, I did all this research, and I'm like, oh, this happens to every
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, this is going to happen again.
Yeah.
And like every fucking time the new doctors die and regenerate, I bawl like a baby. I know it's coming, and I always cry. And then when the new doctor comes along, I don't like him for the first like 5 episodes, and then finally I'm like, okay, I guess you're the doctor now. I guess I like you. Like it's always this like I have to go through all the stages of loss and bereavement before I can accept the new doctor every season.
Well, I think the most important Doctor of all time, I think, does have to be David Tennant, because
fan favorite. Yes.
Well, not only is he, I think he's officially the most popular of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't know, the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, he was pretty bloody popular.
Right.
So. But the thing is that, Tristan Eccleston, he brought everyone back to Doctor Who. Not only did he bring the old fans back, he was able to bring all these new fans, to the show. But the thing is that when then David Tennant came along, that was the really hard gig, because it wasn't convincing people to start watching Doctor Who again. It was to keep the audience with a brand new Doctor. And so David Tennant in many ways had the hardest job, I think, of anybody. A bit like Patrick Troughton did back in the 60s when he actually when he became the second Doctor. So that incredible hard job of taking over from William Hartnell, who was beloved, absolutely beloved at the time. But then again, one of my favourite Doctors is actually Patrick Troughton, the second Doctor. I think his stories are brilliant. They're so, I don't know, there's something about them that draw me in so much, absolutely just so much. But in fact, I see a lot actually in common between the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, and the current Doctor, Jodie Whittaker. I actually think there's a lot of similarities between the two of them, actually. I think she draws off him quite a lot, actually. That's just my personal opinion. Other people might disagree, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a really fun show for anybody who's not gotten into it. And even if you don't have to go all the way back to the beginning. It obviously it takes you a while to figure out the whole lore and stuff, but I feel like you can really jump in any time any season to get into this show. It takes you a minute to kind of figure out what's going on, and honestly, I started watching around, like I said, with the reboot, after this movie, which it's such a long time, to have dead air and to bring this show back. But even for me, just jumping in, even after I've seen a couple of seasons and I've lived through a couple of new Doctors, every once in a while there's still stuff in the lore where I'm just like, I wonder what that is. I wonder what that means. What is going on there? Paradox is something we don't see often in the show, which they've addressed, but only briefly. Like the first season that I got into it, they have, Eccleston's Doctor. He's, traveling with Rose, and she's trying to manipulate time. She's using the TARDIS to time travel, and she wants to prevent somebody from getting killed. And she manages to do that. And these black, weird winged creatures come out of the sky. And he's like, look what you've done. And I'm like, wait, what is going on? And I don't think they ever really explained it, but it just basically sent the message that you can't change history. You can't change what's happened. You can go visit it. You can watch it happen. You can't interfere. You can't change it.
Just to explain that, actually, according to Doctor Who lore, you can change time, but there are fixed points in time that can never be changed. So
There you go.
it's a little bit like if you think of it like a road map, all right, and you're driving between city A to city B to city C, city D, right? Mm-hmm. You can take any road and you can change whatever road you go down at any time. But the cities that you visit, they're permanently fixed. So it's a bit like Doctor Who. So there are certain events in time that can never be changed, but there are other events in time that can definitely be changed. And the Doctor changes time all the time, but there are certain fixed points that he can't. And in fact, there is one episode, where with David Tennant, where he's so upset because he's lost all his friends and he's traveling alone. And he lands on Mars, and he realizes that all these people around him are going to die. This is a really famous event, okay? So he knows he can't change it. This is one of those fixed points in time, all right? Because if he knows the history, then it's a fixed point, right? So what he does is he changes his name. He stops calling himself a Time Lord because he's so angry and upset, and he calls himself the Lord of Time and actually attempts to change time itself. And what's really interesting about it is that he can't. No matter how much he tries, he can't. Whatever he does, like for instance, he saves a person who was meant to have died. And when she realizes that she was meant to have died, she commits suicide.
Oh my goodness gracious!
So no matter what he does, he can't change those fixed points. So now none of this has anything to do with this movie we're talking about. We seem to have just digressed into a general Doctor Who discussion.
Because it's such a huge fandom and huge lore that you really can just talk about it for hours. But yeah, getting back to the movie. So the Master. Okay, I complained. I thought it was cheap that he should be dead in a pile of ash and should be done. End of story. But instead, he turns into goo and he's being transported in basically what's a little urn. And he named the Doctor as his successor, or not successor, but hey, when I die, please take care of my remains. Drop me off on Earth.
Yes.
and he's kind of like, okay, that's weird, but okay, we'll do that. And that's, obviously that was his plan, was to get close to the Doctor, and he wants to steal the Doctor's body, which now I understand. I was just kind of like, what? Okay, because he's evil. That's what the Master does. Steals bodies because he's used up all his regenerations, but he can keep borrowing bodies. But if he steals the body of another Time Lord, then he's got more regenerations again. Okay, that makes more sense now. But in the meantime, he manages to turn into goo, and he turns into a snake, and he steals Eric Roberts' body, who's a very friendly EMT, emergency medical transporter. And I feel bad that happened to him, and that his body gets killed, and he gets killed, and it's just sad. But the whole movie, the body's supposed to be degrading, and they actually did away with this effect because Eric Roberts said that the prosthetics and stuff were just way too uncomfortable to wear, so they did away with it. But you do see in the very beginning when he's first stolen the body and he's talking to a woman, he peels off his fingernail. Oh, God, it looks so gross. Yeah. And it actually looks kind of real. And I'm just like, okay, I'm actually glad they did away with that effect. So we don't have to see parts of his body peeling off and he turns into the Incredible Melting Man.
Man, I know. But it's also, I think it's good that they didn't do it, because the thing is that, okay, once again, according to Doctor Who lore, yes, if a Gallifreyan steals a body of a non-Gallifreyan, the body will start to degrade and decay, okay?
Ew.
But over time, not in 24 hours, it will happen over 20 years. It won't happen, right? It's not going to happen overnight. That's the reason why the Master in the original Doctor Who, if you want to call it, which is more what this is rather than the current Doctor Who, the Master does keep stealing bodies because they do degenerate, they rot away. But it's not going to happen in 24 hours, and this whole movie is set in 24 hours. Right, so it's not going to happen that quick.
24 hours.
You know,
This movie is so 90s. It's like, okay, the movie was made in 1996, but the movie itself takes place in the oh-so-near future of 1999.
yes.
On New Year's Eve, because the millennium's coming, the year 2000. And it's actually it's really funny because this movie was made before the year 2000, obviously. So they didn't have the whole Y2K phenomenon going on, where everybody thought all the computers were going to shut down, the world was going to spiral into chaos because all the computers would get confused once everything hit 000 digits.
Well, not everybody believed it, just the very stupid people.
People wrote books about it. It was insane. It was so crazy.
Yeah.
People were withdrawing all the money out of their bank accounts.
Oh, I know. Filling bathtubs with water and stocking up on baked beans, and it was unbelievable. I remember all of that. Yeah.
It would have been amazing. Unfortunately, this movie didn't know that was going to happen at the time they made made this movie. But it would have been amazing if they could have incorporated that into the plot somehow. That actually, instead of, because they have that going on in this movie, that Eric Roberts, the Master, is going to destroy Earth. And that just would have been amazing if it could have been connected to the whole Y2K.
That would have been very interesting. Actually, I agree.
Right.
I agree. If this movie maybe was made in 1999, then that would have actually been. Yeah,
that would have been in the script.
It would have been a very interesting, sort of connection to connect it all together. I fully agree with that. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. What did you think? I mean, I suppose we've talked about the Doctor. We've talked about the Master, but what about the companion? What did you think of the companion for this movie?
She was all right. I think they had good chemistry. Sometimes I found her a little bit cartoony, a little bit overacting, because she's supposed to be basically a heart surgeon.
Yes.
But she had a lot of personality, and she was very beautiful, and it was an interesting companion. The Doctor's always had female companions as friends.
Oh no, he's had a lot of males as well.
Mm-hmm. But I was going to say platonic.
Oh yeah. Well, until Rose Tyler came along.
Until Rose Tyler, and also this young lady, or I shouldn't say young lady, this female doctor, in no relation to the Doctor, a human cardiologist. I was a bit concerned about the operational procedures in this movie. I was like, wait a second. So the Doctor lands on Earth in his TARDIS, and right when he steps out of the motherfucker, he gets gunned down. Yes. I'm like, oh my God. And so an ambulance comes, and Eric Roberts is an EMT, and the goo that is the Master finds its way into the ambulance and takes a ride with him. Anyways, and so he's at the hospital, and he's been shot, and he's going to be fine. He's going to heal, but humans are fucking it up because we're like, we're so advanced and we know how to do surgery. Here, let's pump him full of anesthetic and knock him out. He wakes up from the anesthetic right when they're getting ready to cut him open for surgery, and he's saying, no, don't. I am really concerned when they all hold him down and force the mask back on him and knock him out again. I'm like, wait, that is not ethical. And also their justification when the Doctor's like, you've been shot, we've removed the bullets, but your heart's still going crazy, so I'm going to open you up and find out what's going on and fix what's wrong. I'm like, wait, no, there is no reason you should be performing heart surgery on this man just because his heart's beating fast. I am really concerned about this. And then they end up killing him because she sticks a little camera probe into his body, and because his anatomy is different from ours, because he's Gallifreyan, he has two hearts, one on each side of his chest, and so the probe gets lost and gets stuck in there, and it kills him. And I'm like, oh my God, they killed the Doctor. He's going to regenerate, but damn, still, I was really concerned about their bedside manner during that operation.
Yes.
I would never send anybody there to get surgery.
So don't go to that particular hospital in San Francisco, whichever one it was. I don't know.
And don't let that female doctor on you. Because she will open you up and do heart surgery because your heart is beating fast. That was the justification. I was like, oh my God.
But the other thing too that is interesting, like, you know, you're sort of saying platonic all the time, and of course Rose Tyler would change all of that. But a lot of people think the only romantic thing there's ever been, well, apart from with Matt Smith, I suppose that as well. But is that there is kind of a romantic connection between the two of them, which definitely had never been seen before. Which was interesting and wouldn't really be picked up until until David Tennant came along. So that was interesting, as well. I don't know. I think the problem with this movie is that as soon as you start talking about it, you just digress into Doctor Who in general. That's the problem that I'm having. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So,
if you've never seen anything related to Doctor Who watching this movie, you're not going to see anything really, I mean, lore-wise, you're not going to see anything wrong with it because you don't have any foundation to go off of. But I was surprised to see, and I think you already know where I'm going, Doctor Who kisses this female doctor, Dr. Grace Holloway. So for a moment, there is a love connection.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, and the Doctor has always been kind of asexual until, as we said on later shows and different Doctors, he does start to have romantic relationships. But up until this point, he'd always been kind of like hanging out and just being friendly and being platonic. And now in here, he very proactively kisses the female Doctor, just like, oh, I remember who I am, smooch.
Well, the thing is, I think the other thing too is that up until this movie, remember the companions had always been very young and the Doctors generally much older. So there really could never be sort of anything romantic because the Doctor was always more a father figure. The difference when Peter McGann comes along, he's much younger than the other Doctors. And so basically the companion and himself, as far as if you want to look at in human terms, even though I think when this movie's set, he's meant to be about 600 years old, something like that.
He's so young.
I know. Well, it's still young for a Gallifreyan, but I mean, but the thing is that, but in human terms, they're the same age. They're, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it was the very first time that you could ever kind of have that connection. I mean, the David Tennant, the Doctor with Rose Tyler, that worked because the ages were much more similar. So they were able to sort of follow down that path, as well. But, it's, I mean, you could never have had Peter Capaldi, with a 21-year-old companion. That just would have started to look wrong, so. It's interesting though. It is interesting. But I mean, if I have to compare all of my Doctors, I must admit, like you actually mentioned earlier when we started talking about it, I wish he had got more of a run. McGann. I really would have liked to have seen him do more as the Doctor. I really kind of in a way wish that a new series had have been picked up from this movie and we would have got maybe a several years of him as the Doctor. I think that I would have really enjoyed that, because I think he's not a bad Doctor, actually. I think he's not bad.
I really liked him. He had great charisma, and he looks like a rock star. He looks like Roger Daltrey from The Who. But all joking aside, I also love they did have nods to the other Doctors in this movie that you probably caught more of the nods than I did. When he first wakes up from he got shot, then he died during surgery, now he's regenerated. When you regenerate, it also changes your face and your physical appearance because how else can the show go on forever?
That's
we
right.
don't allow that. and he needs to find some clothes because the clothes he was wearing was, probably a surgical gown with his ass hanging out. So he's going through the medical staff's lockers, and at one point he opens one locker and pulls out a long scarf.
Yes.
So we got a nod to a doctor.
Nod to Tom Baker, the fourth
Yes,
Doctor.
that was a nice one. And I love that conveniently, even though it's a New Year's Eve party, for some reason it's a costume party, and they've already established that one of the people there is going to go as, who was the character? Dr. Dang it. I thought you would know, Warren. The medical staff guy is like, are you going to go to the dress-up party, the costume party? Yeah, what are you going as? I'm going as... Oh my God, I can't believe I just forgot. It's a famous Western persona. There we go. I'm sorry.
I can't remember now, but yeah.
Doc Holliday.
Doc Holliday, yeah.
Oh my goodness. There we go. Whew. Going from Doctor Who to Doc Holliday. It took me a second. Okay.
Yeah.
Doc Holliday. So he has this great, velvet, suit coat that's hanging in his locker, and the doctor's like, oh, this will do. And so he's wearing just this really spiffy, basically what's supposed to be basically a Western outfit, but it doesn't look Western. It's very modernized. It's this suit and tie, but it's obviously a velvet overcoat. And you see him pulling out the gun with the bullets out of the locker, and he just lays that on the bench. He doesn't wear that.
Yeah.
With the outfit. But I love how they put that in there to establish that was that nurse's aide or that mortician or whatever the fuck that guy's job was at the hospital. That was supposed to be his Halloween costume that the doctor is now wearing for the entire movie.
Well, that
was a long-winded way to explain that. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. But see, I think that would have been interesting because, of course, the doctor is always judged on what's the doctor's outfit. What do they wear through their tenure? Because, of course, the doctor never seems to do laundry, just wears the same thing all the time. Although David Tennant did have two different suits. They were exactly the same. One was just blue and one was brown, but they were both basically a skinny fit pinstripe suit. It was always the same. But the idea of a Wild West character, if you move the Doctor to America, that was kind of interesting. Even in itself.
I like that. I think that was really clever.
Yeah.
I think that was really clever. And actually, I love the way he looks in this movie. I love the outfit he's wearing for the whole movie. And I love his hair.
Yeah.
Which, of course, was a wig that he hated wearing.
Yeah.
But it looks so great on him for the movie.
Oh, he looks great, but it also, whenever you see real pictures of him with the short hair, it's like, hang on.
I know. Oh, okay, and Eric Roberts, the master, towards the end of the movie, when he's wearing his, Gallifreyan cocktail dress. I don't know. It's just...
It's like his official Gallifreyan outfits, yeah. With
It
all
is
the big,
so over the top, though. He just looks like... It's like, okay, in case you didn't realize this is the villain, now he's got his villain outfit on. And I'm just like... It's just, I couldn't help it. I laughed when I saw it. It's just too much.
You want to see the official formal wear of Gallifreyans. It's these ridiculous shoulder board fucking back pieces that come up and, oh, God. Yeah, so it is over the top, but it kind of does fit in. But then again, the Master generally hasn't been played really to that like that. I mean, when he was, because two actors had played the Master before Eric Roberts, and then of course we've had another actor play the Master after him. Generally speaking, they're always very, very well dressed suits or mouse type suits, or like they're actually very fashionable for the time. Eric Roberts in this one kind of just goes all out.
He's so flamboyant.
Yeah.
The outfit's flamboyant. Actually, he's not, but the outfit is. I'm like,
yeah.
God damn. I'm like, I literally went deaf from looking at his outfit. That's how loud his outfit was. I was like, wow, I just went deaf from looking at it. That's crazy.
Yes.
No, but all joking aside, I was just like, Jesus Christ. I mean, they were like, go crazy on the wardrobe. It's over the top. He's the villain. No, but you guys just have to see it. It's actually really amazing. Okay, now, wow, there's so much going on in this movie. We have gang activity in this movie, which that is really unresolved.
Yeah.
It is unresolved. There is just a young the young Asian boy. Is that what Eric Roberts says? The Asian child.
The Asian
Eric
child.
Roberts
Yeah,
says in the movie. It's so random. It's just bizarre. Yeah, that's actually a weird piece of dialogue because he's trying to track down basically the kid that shot the doctor so that he can find out where the doctor is. But he's like talking to this woman. He's like, the Asian child. She goes, the Asian child, you're sick. And I was like, what? Wait, what? I didn't understand the dialogue. It was just bizarre. I didn't know what she meant by that. I don't know why she said that. I don't know what it meant. I'm like, okay. Anyways. But yeah, the Asian child, as he's calling him, he's a teenager. He's in a gang and they're shooting people. There's a gang war. They're shooting at each other with guns. And I'm just like, this is unresolved because I'm like, okay, does this kid go around killing people? I mean, to what extent is this dude a criminal? I mean, he's supposed to be like a street kid criminal. I don't know to what extent he's dangerous. I don't know what his home life is like. I don't know if he has a home because
I don't think he does. No.
Yeah, it was.
I think he's meant to be a loose associate of a gang. He's sort of like wants to be in the gang. He's not fully in the gang.
Wow.
He's meant to be very young. He's totally corruptible, like if you like.
Yeah.
But then suddenly when he realizes that, shit, there's so much more to this world, and he also realizes the fact that he was conned by the master, the master cons him. And when he realizes the truth and, there's a whole universe out there, and then also when the doctor gives him a gift, he suddenly realizes, I don't have to follow that life anymore.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it is resolved, but it was, wow. It's like, just throw some money at him.
But that's all he does. He basically just throws some money at him. I know. It's that simple. It's like, he just gives him a bag of gold dust. And the doctor's there. It's like, I got tons of it. Here you go. Like, yeah, I know.
So I was just, wow. I was like, this is bizarre that we've got a character that's actively participating in gang activity in which people could get killed by getting shot. And yeah, but at the same time, like he is a redeemable character because even though he's kind of the reason the doctor got shot in the beginning, he does help the doctor. He, makes sure an ambulance comes and, he fills out paperwork so the doctor could get treatment, even though our medical staff ends up killing him. But anyways, and I just like, and then like, as you said, once he realizes that he's been lied to by the master and he's on the wrong side of things, he tries to do what he can to remedy it. And he does end up getting killed. And so does the female doctor, Dr. Grace. But of course, because this is an American television movie made for TV, we can't let the good guys die. So yeah, let's just bring them back to life because fuck it. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this movie's so cheap.
Look, it is. I mean, the problem with it is it's really just it's an episode rather than an actual movie to a degree.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
And the problem is it's an hour and a half as your standard television movie, right?
Right.
And so the problem is these stories in old Doctor Who, which is what this really is, okay, old Doctor Who, it was just the very last piece of old Doctor Who. These stories were told over 5 episodes, 6 episodes, right? So each episode was half an hour. So we're talking about maybe 3 hours of actual stuff. So I think the problem is the story's a bit too complex to get all pushed into an hour and a half. And
I think you're right.
And that doesn't help it. That doesn't sort of help it. But the problem is if you're going to make a telemovie, you've got no choice in that. It's also one reason why, like, for instance, Star Trek, the motion picture, a lot of people often sort of say, God, the movie drags on, it's so dull. And one of that reason is apparently the original script was just lifted from an unused script from the original Star Trek. And they literally just expanded it out into a movie. That whole idea apparently about Voyager was apparently meant to be a story for like Star Trek Season 4, but of course Star Trek Season 4 never happened. So they just took that story and expanded it out into a movie. But this has kind of got the reverse problem, is they've got too much story and they're trying to pack it down into an hour and a half. And that doesn't help. And then you've got the cheapness of what is just a TV production. And it's a bit like when we spoke about the latest Saint movie, great idea, but just not enough budget.
Right.
you know?
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
It was, what else was I going to say? Okay, we killed them. He was in a gang. Oh, this is when I just fucking got confused. When they were opening up the eyeball of the ship and there's blue light and somehow the world's going to get blown up, but the master will live. And I was, this is when I went, I need to watch this movie again because somehow I got lost. I didn't know what was going on.
I've seen it about 4 times, Velvet. I still get lost with all of that. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
So you're not, don't worry.
Now. I was like, all of a sudden I was literally like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, I was like, I must have just missed one piece of dialogue. I must have just missed something. Because, yeah, literally all of a sudden now they're like, okay, the master is going to somehow steal the doctor's body, but when he does that, it's going to kill everybody on Earth. I don't understand if it's going to kill everybody on Earth.
No, he's going to create a some sort of paradox which is going to alter time, which is going to kill everybody because he's opened up the heart of the TARDIS, and it's all. But look, I fully agree. It's way too complicated. It's not explained properly. And even after numerous times of watching this, I don't understand it. Right?
Okay, because here's the thing. Okay. Now, it's kind of funny because this is cute because in this movie they do refer to the TARDIS, and for anybody who's like, what the hell is the TARDIS? Basically, it's this interdimensional time traveling machine. You can travel through galaxies, you can travel through time. It's a traveling mechanism, basically. This time traveling interdimensional, galaxy traveling ship.
Yes, TARDIS, time and relative dimension in space. Just if you want.
I was waiting for you to do that. Okay, thank you.
As most people just say, it's bitter on the inside.
Yes, and I love they did pay nice tribute to that trope in this movie. So, so I love that first off they treat this machine that they're traveling in basically as it's sentient, which I think is really cute. And they're like, oh, she likes you. The TARDIS likes you. Oh, the TARDIS is sentimental. Okay. And then they're saying the heart of the TARDIS, which is kind of like a giant eyeball with like closed lids. They slowly open the lids and the blue light comes out. Okay. Here's my thing. Does every TARDIS have this, or just that one?
No, every TARDIS. The TARDIS.
Okay.
The original. If you really go back in the history, the TARDIS is just basically a time machine. All right.
Right.
But but it's but it does over time as the stories develop become more than that. And what we now know about the TARDIS is that they're not actually a machine. They are a machine, but they're also. In fact, they don't build TARDISes, they grow TARDISes. Mm-hmm. All right? So the thing now is that because Gallifrey was destroyed, but it wasn't actually destroyed, it's just hidden. So, yeah. But during the time when we thought Gallifrey was destroyed, you could never build another TARDIS. Like, you can't just build one. They have to actually be created out of the heart and soul of Gallifrey itself. It's not just a machine. Wow. Yeah, they're much more than that. And in fact, we will find out later on in Doctor Who lore, that they are sentient. It's an actual sentient creature, the TARDIS. It's because there is an episode where the TARDIS actually converts itself into a human being.
My God.
And Matt Smith is actually able to talk to it, and it's really, really weird because it's like they have this kind of weird love affair because, of course, the Doctor loves the TARDIS. So what happens if the TARDIS projects itself as a woman? It's really interesting. Oh, my God. Yeah, it's really interesting where they go with
amazing.
That. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I definitely have to see that episode because that's just amazing.
Yes.
But I was so confused at the end. I was literally like, I don't know what is happening. I don't understand this whole, here, you need human eyes, look in the blue light. And I didn't understand what was going on.
It's just, it got stupid. I'll be honest with you. It is not stupid, actually.
I didn't understand what was going on. I was just like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
But one more piece of fun trivia for possible casting decisions. They also approached Anthony Head Now, some of you were like, who is Anthony Head? I am a big Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. Anthony Head is Giles. Just kidding. Giles. No, just kidding. Giles. His name is Giles. No, actually, he was offered the role of the Doctor for this movie. And I take that back. He auditioned. So obviously he didn't get the role. But yeah, look at that. Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer could have been the Doctor in another alternate universe. He did audition.
I can see that, actually.
I don't know, because he's always such a straight. Well, I know him from Buffy for so long, so he's always such a straight character, and the Doctor's always kind of quirky. Well, that's not true.
But if you're playing it quirky, I mean, no, the Doctor is always quirky. Yeah,
he is always kind of quirky, isn't he? Well, Anthony Head's always so straight. So,
well, except for the first Doctor, William Hartnell was just a grumpy old man. I mean,
well, okay, he could have played that.
You know.
No, but I am glad I finally saw this. It's one of those movies it's on, the never-ending list of movies to watch. I've been wanting to see the Doctor Who movie. I was always intrigued that it took place in America. I thought that was really fun. And for up until we watched the fucking movie, I thought it was Roger Daltrey. Yeah. I was really excited to see Roger Daltrey from The Who playing the Doctor, and it is not him. But I love the way Paul McGann played the Doctor. I think he really did the role justice, and I love that he gets to be a part of Doctor Who lore.
Absolutely. But I think if you want to see the best Doctor Who movie, because there are 3 of them, official ones. There was the 5 Doctors, there was this one, and then there is the latest one, which was the 50th, anniversary or whatever it was. It was 2016 or whenever it was. So the best one, though, I actually think to watch is not this one. It's actually the one that preceded this one, and that's called The 5 Doctors. And that is a great one to watch because you get all 5 Doctors together in the one movie.
That's
all
so
of them.
Cool.
Well, except for the first Doctor, who's been played by a different actor because William Hartnell died. Okay, so
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
No.
I apologize.
So that's so that is a really, and they also bring back a whole heap of past companions, and so that's a really, really good one to watch as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah. It was always a great thing. Everyone always loved those because we had the 3 Doctors before that, where they brought 3 Doctors back together. We had the 5 Doctors, then we had the 2 Doctors, where they brought 2 Doctors back together, and of course to wrap up Peter Capaldi, of course they brought back the first Doctor, so we had 2 Doctors together as well. Of course, not played by William Hartnell again, because obviously he was dead, but interestingly played by the actor that played William Hartnell in the biopic about the birth of Doctor Who. So that was an interesting little thing, yeah. And this is a problem. I'm just going to keep rabbiting on about Doctor Who trivia and lore forever, so we should probably just wrap it up before...
Yeah, it's... If we haven't convinced you, definitely check out the Doctor Who series. It used to be readily available on Netflix. It makes me so mad they took it off. I'm like, now I have to actually buy it.
Yes, and it's...
I have to buy it. But which I don't mind, honestly. It's just I'm trying to avoid having a huge physical collection, and that's the kind that if you're going to buy it, you might as well get the physical medium as well as the digital medium, because it's a fun thing to collect. Honestly, I think it's a great series.
I was going to say too, in the original series too, when you buy them now, they all come with, well, not all of them, but probably 90% of them come with audio commentary.
See, that's great. I love that.
With the actors who actually, so that is wonderful to watch
I love
as well.
That.
Yeah.
I love that.
But yes, you're going to need a rather large bookshelf to get them all on because
it's huge.
Yeah.
And it's also, as you said, we could go on about Doctor Who lore forever, so we have to shut up eventually. But the Doctor Who is so fascinating because this show has been running over 50 years.
Yeah.
And so it's to the point that a lot of the original episodes from the first season, as what we would call a season now, have been lost into time. There are no
huge
copies
amounts.
of it. No,
Huge
no
amounts.
digital copies, nothing. Which is, it's like, wow, that's amazing. So it's kind of like, silent film era when they occasionally find like a couple more strips of Metropolis. They're like, okay, we're going to revamp it again, add in these new like slices that we found.
Oh, they're still finding stuff around the world.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
But the worst one is the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton. There's more of his stuff lost than actually exists, which is really a shame. And you know why this happened, right? This all happened because the BBC was so cheap, they didn't store them. They reused the tape.
Oh, no.
So they just recorded over the top of it. That's
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so where they're actually finding these episodes is in foreign TV networks that still happen to have in the bowels of the basement that everyone forgot about. They find this tape, right? And that's where a lot of this has been coming from. They're also finding some of it from people who worked on the show that had bits. That it's absolutely fascinating. But the way they're getting around it now, and I think this is just brilliant, is that if you've got an old story, which is, let's say, 5 episodes long, but only 2 episodes exist, all right? But what a lot of them they still have is the audio soundtrack, but they don't have the actual vision. So what they're doing is they're animating it, right?
Oh, how cool.
But it's animated to the original soundtrack.
That's cool. And where can you see these? Where are they putting these out at?
You can buy them right now.
Cool.
There's a number of the second Doctor serials where you'll go on, if you buy it, it'll be, let's say, a 6-episode story. 3 of the episodes will be animated, and 2 of the episodes are the actual real footage.
That is so cool. I love that.
They piece it back together. It's a brilliant idea of a way to try to get this stuff back into circulation again.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. That's so cool.
Oh, yeah.
That what an amazing legacy, and it's still going. which was really amazing.
And I have to admit, I really like Jodie Whittaker. I like the new Doctor.
Awesome.
I do have to say, though, I think they've got some writing issues at the moment. I will say that. And it does look like we're going to be taking a year off, 2019. And
really?
Yeah, that there's apparently some real issues behind the scene with the writing.
Oh, that's a bummer. No.
Yeah, So, but anyway, it's going to be coming back. It's not over.
Yeah,
right. Because the other thing too is that we don't want to do a George Lazenby to this. Like the whole idea that. It's like Jodie Whittaker comes along and then the show ends. I mean, that would just be horrific, So, because I really like her. I think she's great. We just need to update the writing a bit, I think, at the moment. So, anyway, that's just my thoughts about the new Doctor. I think that's about it, isn't it? Oh, we got to rate it.
All right. We got to rate it. Okay. Well, I love the Doctor. I love Doctor Who. I love Paul McGann as the Doctor. I love seeing Eric Roberts playing the villain, playing the Master. It was a fun turn. It was nice to see the 90s.
Yes.
Just makes me laugh. Okay. But like I said, I do feel like the writing's a little poor and the script's a little crazy. I was confused. I don't know what's going on towards the middle to the end. I'm like, what happened? So out of a possible 5 Eric Roberts, I'm going to give this 3.
Oh my God, we're agreeing on everything. I'm going to give it a 3 as well.
I think that's the first time.
And we can seriously actually give it 3 Erics this time too. But because the problem is it's a stretched out TV episode, and that's the problem with it, So, and then you're trying to view that as a full on movie, So yeah,
right.
So I agree. I'll give it 3. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
All right.
Woo, wow, this is a long one.
Hang on
I
a
hope
second.
you guys hung
Can
in
you
there.
still hear me?
Oh, can you hear
that's
me?
all right. That's all right. I just disconnected a whole heap of wires. That's all right. Here we go. That's all right. That's I'm there. I'm here. Can you hear me? Help!
I was like, can you hear me now? Can you hear me
Yeah,
now?
I know. It's like, yeah, it's just, I suddenly just, I moved my arm and just literally ripped all the cables out of the,
and it still works.
Yeah, it still works.
This reminds me really quick. I forgot. I actually meant to bring this up at the beginning of the episode, not at the end. I started listening to a podcast that reminds me of us, and I'm like, oh, so it's like my new favorite podcast that are called Recent, and this is not a plug for them, but I guess it will be now. They're called Recently Added, and it's just this guy getting on the phone with his friends, and they talk about movies they watch on Netflix every week.
That sounds like us, doesn't it? Yeah.
And the exact way that we talk, and they're always laughing and going on tangents and talking about, and I was like, this is just like our show, so it's really funny. I love their thing is every week they talk about what's new on Netflix, and they're called Recently Added. And I'm
that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I'm like, oh, this sounds just like me and Warren.
I've often wondered sometimes we should just rename the show. And now I'll digress.
Because they have episodes where they're like, they have friends calling in, and he's at a party, and there's all this noise in the background. He's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna go in another room." and then he'll be talking, and then he just gets cut off, and they're like, "And we lost so and so. Oh well, he'll come back later." And then they just start talking. I'm like, oh God, it's just like our show.
I'm convinced. If we talk about a movie for half an hour or 3/4 of an hour, I'm convinced we only spend about 15 minutes on the actual movie.
Oh, that's like
the
them
rest
too.
of
They
it
crack
is
me up.
just, yeah, I know.
That's like them. They're talking about, oh, I made love in Paris, and I made love in Japan. Everywhere me and my wife go, we make love. And I'm like, what is this got to do with the movie you're supposed to be talking about? It's really funny.
Well, I think as we always say, if you want a serious movie review podcast,
this is not the podcast. No, don't listen to us.
This is not the podcast. This is two friends just, what do they say?
I
love
it. I love listening to two friends talk because it's just fun and I love it.
Yeah, we're just two friends who talk about a subject that we love. That's all it is. So, and if you want to join us, join in. Yeah, so, all right then. We got anything else to say? Is there anything else we need to do, or
no? I think that's pretty much it for now. I mean, we have social media. I am not active on social media at all nowadays. Maybe that'll change someday, but I'm not making any promises. But we do have, have a Twitter. We
have a Twitter. We have a Twitter and Instagram and a Facebook. And honestly, I can guarantee if you send us a message, we're probably never going to reply.
We used to, but things change. Things change.
Yeah. I mean, I think really this show is more about the podcast. It's not about interactivity on social media.
Right?
Social media is a way where you can. You can see it there, see links and things like that, but it's not an interactive forum for us. The show is our forum, not Twitter or anything like that. So, but it is there. Yes. It is there. However, it is a good way if there is something serious you want to tell us about, or you want to come on the show or do something like that. If you do send us a private message or whatever they call it, direct message or whatever, we will respond to that. Okay. So if you do send that sort of stuff, then like you sort of say, hey, we've got a mini movie we'd like you to talk about, or hey, can I come on the show or something like that? You can do that via Twitter and we will respond. So yeah, but we're not going to have general chats. We got lives.
Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, then that's basically a wrap. We'll be back. I don't know if we'll be back next week, but we'll definitely be back the week after. I think we've said this before. We can't guarantee a show every single week as we used to.
Yeah, it's just things have changed. We get busy. And that's funny. The podcast I was just talking about, they're the same way. They're like, we were going to record this week, but then shit happened and we didn't. So we're here this week.
That's exactly right. So
I'm like, it's just like us.
Yes. Look, sometimes there's a 2 weeks break and then we have a show, and it's one reason why we have no problem at all with the show going for like over 3 hours, because the thing is you can separate
It'll
it out.
sustain you for a couple weeks.
Well, that's the thing, because I have to admit 3 hours a week was a long ask for a lot of people to listen to, you know. Because, I mean, this show just goes on and on and on talking about nothing. You know, so you know, it doesn't really worry me in that sense, you know. But yeah, but basically, you know, we can't guarantee we're going to be on every week. If we can, we will. If we can't, we can't. So just so people know.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Oh dear.
Woo.
All right then. Well, we will sign off for podcast number 80. We'll of course then be back with podcast 81. And we will leave you as we leave you every single week with Alana Evans and Perfect. Cheers, guys. We'll be back soon.
You're always smiling when I see you. It doesn't matter.